This stream is powered by Melita, using Melita Gigapower Internet. World Pro Racing, where sim racing becomes real.
For only €5 a month, experience every high-definition moment on your TV, tablet, phone or PC. Great teams, great moments, and so much more. TSN from Melita is your ticket to stay in the game. Visit melita.com/sports.
Senna was a god. No one could even dream to follow him.
I'm from a very humble background.
The role of women at that time were really difficult.
It's just so dangerous. You are risking not only your life, but also my life.
Wish your Wi-Fi network would just work in any room? Our new Stellar Wi-Fi is AI assisted to give you the smoothest, fastest possible Wi-Fi throughout your home. Stellar Wi-Fi, assisted by AI, exclusive to Melita. Find out more in-store or online.
World Pro Racing, where sim racing becomes real.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome once again back to World Pro Racing. Of course, we've had two fantastic races this very week. We had the multi-class at the Nürburgring back on Tuesday night. We also had the midway point of the World Pro Racing Assetto Corsa Competizione Sprint Series, but myself and Nico Hilbrand are back once again. Nico, good evening.
Good evening, Alex. Good to see you again, mate.
Indeed, and what we've got is the all-German 2-hour race, and once again, we're going back to our secondary home, the Nürburgring, based in the Eifel region. It's going to be a 2-hour spectacular, but of course, this would not be possible. What we do and what we have been doing since 2017. A big thank you to our sponsors and partners, Gaming Malta, Melita, who are powering this stream, Thrustmaster, GT Omega Racing, HyperX, and AMD. A warm welcome to all the viewers on the World Pro Racing YouTube, Facebook, and Twitch streams, and of course on Malta's TVM Sport channel, motorsport.tv, and our good friends at Esports Television, ESTV. And Nico, all German affair, that sings like music to my ears. We've got the fantastic vocals from Audi, Mercedes, Porsche, BMW, and there's around 30 plus entrants on this grid tonight. It's going to be a fantastic event, isn't it?
Yeah, for all the connoisseurs of racing sounds there, it's going to be there for everything. We have this screaming 5.2 liter V10, sorry, of the Audi. We have a very nice Boxer 6-cylinder in the rear engine Porsche for, the fans of screaming engines. And then we also have the pure grunt of a naturally aspirated V8 6.5 or almost liters, 6.2 liters actually, in the Mercedes, and also a nice turbocharged engine from BMW for those people who like turbo engines.
Yes, the 4.4 litre V8M twin power turbo brought actually straight off the shelf into the M6. But before we get things underway, let's actually take you into the inner sanctum. We're going to actually head to the stewards room at World Pro Racing for a bit of an insight. And I'm pleased to welcome along with us our race director, of course. He's an FIA recognised steward, and he's waving there. Good evening to World Pro Racing's very own Adrian Figallo. Good evening.
Good evening to you. Good evening, everybody. Yes, it's an insight here, the stewards room. To my left, you can also see George Muscat. We have also Nathan Vella, who is assisting us remotely. Normally, we have obviously Nathan on the last station here, but this is how it looks like from race direction and the stewarding room.
Obviously, Adrian, there's a lot that goes into stewarding on a regular basis. Obviously, we'll take, for instance, the multi-class race this past Tuesday. A lot of on-the-spot decisions for both yourself and George. How quickly do you take relevant information? Do you have replays available, sector times? What is it that really gives you the insight into the information provided for any respective incident itself?
Yeah, obviously enough. We have the three of us will be looking at various action. We have also the timing that we look at to understand where the action can be when we see obviously the gaps which are smaller between the drivers. And yes, we relay also information between us. George giving me information to review and vice versa. So that's the way we actually work and try to make the decisions as fast as possible.
And we always get that as soon as we see in the commentators booth chat on the official World Pro Racing Discord, we know they came thick and fast on Tuesday night. Hopefully we're not going to have that happen this evening, but in 2 hours, we both know that anything can happen.
Yeah, that's right. Obviously, it's a long race. Anything can happen, but obviously enough, when I did my briefings, especially this week, I upped also our attention to that we, as normally here at World Pro Racing, we don't accept any particular non-sportsmanly way movements, and obviously on track and it actually worked, and because we saw some clean races this week. So we're hoping again to see a clean race today. We don't pretend that there are no incidents, because in any race incidents do happen, but obviously enough having a clean race and just having racing incidents, normal racing incidents, that's fine, like any other real race, even in real life.
Well, Adrian, thank you very much for your time, and all the very best for you and George. Adrian Figallo, our official race director, and George Muscat, our race steward. So, Adrian, thank you again. Hope you have a good evening and enjoy the show that we'll be seeing from the drivers very soon. I know you're going to have your hands full.
Thanks very much.
So, Nico, we've got around 36 cars, I think, judging by the official entry list. But the server times look rather interesting. We're going to be starting pretty much early morning. The server time is 6 o'clock for free practice, which I believe is currently underway. Qualifying will take place at 7 o'clock local time, and then the race, which will be 2 hours long. But again, in this 2-hour race here at the Nürburgring, position on the track isn't always going to be key to where you end up at the conclusion of this race, is it?
Yeah, not quite. Of course, you want to find yourself in the former half of the entire track, because if you're too far back, it's a rolling start. If we have a very big grid like today, it can be that the rolling start gets going, you get the green flag, and you're in your position, but still coming out of the Hyundai N curve, which is, of course, the last corner there. And yeah, it's quite difficult, and especially in these morning conditions, it's a lot of changing day and night settings. It gets brighter gradually, and that's just something that drivers will have to also deal with. It doesn't sound like much, but when the sun just sets a little bit wrong, it can be quite blinding, and we can see some of the nice lighting effects of Assetto Corsa Competizione right there, with that bottoming out, with the sparks coming, and yeah, that lighting is also present for the sun. We see how nicely all of this is dynamically adjusting here. And yeah, I'd say, of course, track position, it's not always decisive. You also have to just get everything right over these 2 hours. You have 3 mandatory pit stops, so we'll have quite an opportunity to see different strategy plays once again from the guys. But yeah, I'm just excited to see how everyone will tackle this.
So as you can see, we are currently just over halfway through the 15-minute practice session. Nico did say it is 3 mandatory pit stops tonight, but there is no mandatory requirements for either refueling or tyres. So it will be down to the driver's discretion and what strategies they will decide on. As there is Alex Johnston in the 248 sporting new livery. He's switched to what I believe is the same colours that Marcus Littlewood was sporting with the Omega E racing team. There's Daniel Ginchard. He was running in the GT4 race at the Nürburgring this past Tuesday, but had a disconnect in the session, which meant that he was unable to rejoin. So Johnston leads from Ginchard, Littlewood. Well, as I say that, Luke Whitehead, fresh from his very dominant performance at the 3rd round of the World Pro Racing ACC Sprint Series that took place last Friday, and the penultimate round of the 2nd season will head to Circuit Zolder in Belgium next Friday evening. So you'll be once again joining our commentators for that, Jake Sperry and Kieran McGinley, on the 5th of February. Other upcoming events, Nico will be in solo commentary mode on next Tuesday, the 2nd of February, the first event, the first casual race of February 2021, where he'll be heading to the virtual recreation of the Garden of England, Brands Hatch in West Kingsdown in Kent, for the Porsche 911 GT3R casual race. We then have the Nightmaster race, casual race at Spa-Francorchamps on the 9th of February, which I'll be back for. And then we'll have the 5th and final round of the World Pro Racing Assetto Corsa Competizione Sprint Series, taking place at the iconic and infamous Spa-Francorchamps in the Ardennes Forest on the 12th of February, where a €500 prize fund will be decided, with the Season 2 champion taking home a cool €250. And then on the 16th of February, Nico is going to be back again in solo commentary duty on the Rainmaster at Barcelona casual race, which will take place on the 16th of February. All events will start here live on World Pro Racing at 8:30 p.m. Central European Time. So if you're watching from the UK, it will be 7:30 p.m. UK time. If you are watching the World Pro Racing YouTube channel, please don't forget to like this video, hit that subscribe button, and whilst you're at it, hit the notification bell, which will give you the relevant information you need. And you can also head to worldproracing.com if you want to sign up to any of the events. And at the moment, currently, well, the Sprint Series is pretty much a sellout. There's one spot remaining on the Nightmaster at Spa casual race on the 9th of February. The Porsche 911, well, the Porsche 911, as I say that, the Nightmaster at Spa race is fully booked, as is the 911 GT3 race on Tuesday. But for the Rainmaster at Barcelona on the 16th of February, there are still 25 slots on the grid available. So head to worldproracing.com to get all the relevant information that you need. And there is Samuel Foch in the number 8, one of the many BMWs. We've got some familiar names here. Ben Norton, then you've got Ohak, Gorms, Tom Otti, amongst others. But there is quite a few Porsches I see there, Nico.
Yeah, the Porsche is, for this kind of track, definitely one of the favorites. It also can definitely brag about a quite good BOP that it has at this circuit for quite some time already. But the same goes for the Audi. The Mercedes and the BMW are not quite at the same power band here, but a BMW like Samir Foch is driving here right now, it is quite nice, of course, overall, because in the last BOP patches, the BMW got a whole lot of extra horsepower, so even if it's not quite the optimal car for example, the twists and turns of the Mercedes arena at low speeds, as soon as there's a longer straight and as soon as there's longer corners, such as the way through the Schumacher S and then the way out of here, the old Warsteiner Kurve, as they used to colloquially call it now, the Beer Kurve. This entire way here is an absolute blast in the BMW, and it's definitely just one of the nicest cars to have here.
Yeah, very true. We're on board with Samuel Foch as we now get a little bit of a sort of a drone-esque shot going through. I think that was the Schumacher S's there. Foch now makes his way through the final corner here at the 3.2 mile, 5.148 kilometer circuit. Goes across the line. Where does Foch end up? Well, that was about close to 6/10 off his best effort. So Whitehead leading with about 2 minutes in the session to go. Headlights ablaze on all the cars as the number 19 Porsche comes out of the pit lane. So it's Johnston behind Whitehead, followed by Ginchard, Littlewood, Thomas, Romanek, Sheldon Muscat in the number 18. Still sticking with the tried and tested Mercedes as Marcus Littlewood going through through the Bierkurve. Absolutely, that was full-on Stuttgart sideways by that Porsche. You can't exactly call that Tokyo Drift, unfortunately, considering it is all German manufacturers represented here tonight. But he kept that one, he definitely kept that foot to the floor, and he's decided, right, I might want to sort of just back out. I've got, just over 60 seconds of the practice session still to go. And there is Felix Seff in the very brightly coloured. That is showing the Boutson Guignon Racing BMW, obviously a team run by ex-Formula One driver Thierry Boutsen, of all people. He used to race back in the day with Williams in Formula One and has had the likes of people such as, I think Tom Coronel has raced for them in FIA WTCR in previous years and TCR Europe. But that's a very, very striking livery there, wouldn't you say, Nico?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, BMW is quite famous for having absolutely exceptional art cars or just very iconic liveries, It starts with the white M livery and, also with, when you go quite far back into the 90s, I'd say one of the most iconic sponsors on a BMW back then was Warsteiner, probably. A good old beer brand from not too close from where I am based, actually. But, yeah, these art cars, they have a history of coming back from Le Mans, the M3 GT2, for example, one of the big iconic cars of that, and they just continue with the newer generations of cars, and of course, M6, now soon to be replaced, but still quite a car. And we talked about him earlier, Samir Foch, Sir Foch, or as he's known on Twitch, as we have a little spin from Andrea Rizzo here. But Sir Foch, the BMW is a bit of a tank. He should be used to that because he started out as a World of Tanks streamer.
Funny how things turn around, isn't it, Nico? But the session is completed, the checkered is out, and Luke Whitehead in the 404 Audi R8 LMS GT3 Evo is over 3 3/4 tenths up on Alex Johnston, who's coming through the NGK chicane at the moment and then going through the final turn here at the circuit. Just going to see if the Omega E-Racing Porsche, well, he literally slows to a crawl at the end of it all, and that brings out the checkered flag for the session. But Nico, in many respects, you could just sort of like see the top four all, well, top five, and then you look at the top six, anywhere between Ingolstadt and Stuttgart, occupying there, and then Affalterbach comes flying in, courtesy of Sheldon Muscat. We never see that guy out of Mercedes machinery, but still rather close. I mean, Nathan Thomas and Lucas Romanek having exactly the same time, but on the benefit of getting it first, Nathan Thomas puts himself P5. I think qualifying is going to be even spicier because the fact is that the temperature might be a little bit more elevated as we go into 7 o'clock on the server, and that's AM. That's why it's nigh on pitch blank, and also the fact that the headlights will still be ablaze, so that could catch drivers out going for a hot lap.
Yeah, for sure. I think especially around that time, as I look here, it's going to be 7 a.m. So this is the point where the sun will properly start showing. So I think even though it's only 15 minutes, we'll start to see the temperature slowly, dynamically rising. And of course, you want to have a cool track, but with the new tire model, you actually want a little bit more heat in there. So the drivers will have to look out that they get the heat they need, but not too much heat, of course. At the moment, it's 17 degrees. That should be looking quite good overall. And yeah, I think we have some good materials for an exciting qualifying session.
So the session now is underway, nearly a minute completed. So a 15-minute qualifying session, not very long for drivers to get respective times in, but Lucas Romanek looks to be the first one to get out there rather early. And with cloud cover overhead, the track is running at optimum at the moment. So in my eyes, Nico, the biggest thing here is that it's about who gets their tyres up to temperature. This will also help to heat the brakes through the wheel rim as well, and then also have that engine literally firing on all valves and cylinders. And Lucas Romanek, I think, has done the right thing by getting himself out onto the track early and gets himself a bit of clear air.
Yeah, I think it's going to be quite tricky here because, of course, this is a circuit where you don't necessarily always have the chance to overtake. As we can see here, now actually the Audi on the right side is backing off a little bit, but if he hadn't, Romanek could have been in a spot of bother there. But it's really tricky because it says optimum, but from the beginning of optimum condition, as it's registered there, to the end of it, there's still another second or so pace in. And so, of course, you want to wait a little bit to actually have the best optimal condition on track. And that is actually also getting quite a bit close there again. But as we see here, you just want to be out on track early and as clean air as possible, because it's just going to get crammed so quickly with so many cars here.
Yeah, very, very true. So you can see that some of the cars still have the headlights ablaze, and obviously that's to indicate to the drivers just behind that they are on a hot lap. And it is down to some of the drivers just to make sure that they keep out of the way. There is a BMW just in front of Romanek at the moment, and that I'm not too sure who that was, but that was a very, very nigh on body in white BMW M6 GT3. And there is Luke Whitehead. So it's an Audi out in front at the moment, but obviously no banker laps set with the first 3 minutes already completed here at the Nürburgring. The Grand Prix track was originally created back in 1984, and the funny thing is that between 83 and 82 and 83, the start-finish area at the here at the Nürburgring was actually demolished to help create the new Grand Prix circuit. But obviously, the Shorten Nordschleife is still used for what used to be known as the VLN, and I think, Nico, if memory serves me correctly, it's known as the NLS. If memory serves me correctly, I'm not 100% sure, but being as you're more local to these parts, you'll know a bit more than me.
Yeah, it got a rebranding very recently to the Nordschleife Langstreckenserie. And, Nürburgring Langstreckenserie. Either way, it works. Rebranding done quite recently. And, a lot of people still stick to the old VLN name because it's just, a bit more iconic. But as we're talking about, that first time's coming in, 53.7 from Luke Whitehead as his Audi crosses the line. He already has it quite easy, I would say, because he was in the Audi in the last race already, in the multi-class race that we had a couple days ago. So he's already quite used to it. Other people, like, for example, Lucas Romanek, he was in the Aston Martin, so he just has to get used to a new car as well, which could be an additional challenge.
Yeah, very much the case. We're on board with Alex Johnston now in the Omega E Racing 248 Porsche. See, he's just come through the NGK chicane. We're at the final turn. Comes the number 248 Porsche 911 GT3R, the 991-2 variety. And he crosses line, goes P2 on a 1 minute 53.892, just over 0.18 behind Luke Whitehead, as there is Ryan Renoir from Belgium in the 732, currently P14 at the moment, but will set a lap time very, very shortly, having done an initial, and goes P5 on a 1 minute 55.332. Dan Ginchard and Samir Foch now up into, well, that was changed quickly because Vishal Patel goes up to P3, but Whitehead looks like he's got that Audi well and truly planted. And if memory serves me correctly, he's also running in this car, Nico, in the World Pro Racing Assetto Corsa Competizione Sprint Series.
Yes, of course. In that, it depends a little bit on which track, because in the Sprint Series, they're actually allowed to change the car depending on the track, so everyone can just be as comfy as they want on each round. But either way, the Audi is quite a car that is quite good around certain circuits. For example, Kyalami, where we saw a lot of Audis compete. And I think actually he competed in the Audi on Misano as well, if I remember correctly, or was that in the Ferrari? I don't remember.
Vyacheslav Volodoya from Estonia comes through in the number 7 Mercedes, running in the Evo version of it, rounding out the top 10 at the moment, 1.695 seconds off of Whitehead, who has provisional pole position with just over 8.5 minutes to go. And as the number 7 improves, goes P4 on a 1 minute 54.666, just 27 thousandths behind Vishal Patel. There's Foch once again in the number 8 BMW. It's just been deposed out of P7 by I think that's Jan Heiler there, if memory serves me correctly, in the 333 Audi. So for those wondering, yes, it is an all-German race. It means it's a German circuit, and every single car has to hail from these parts. It was quite funny because I was doing commentary on another race, and they said, yeah, well, it's all German cars. I went, which track are we at? Imola. Okay. And then someone else piped up and said, well, my German-sourced Honda should be okay, shouldn't it? I went, that's not German, that's Italian. He said, why is that? I said, because the Honda NSX GT3 is made by Jazz Motorsport. And he went, oh. I went, yeah, exactly. Oh. So it isn't exactly German, is it? Yeah. Okay, I see your point. And he had to switch to a BMW. He wasn't quite happy, but I said, hey, they said German cars. That's the stipulation. If we put in a stipulation here at World Pro Racing, every single driver has to stick by it. As we've got the last 7 minutes and 15 seconds still to go. Here's Wojciech Neuwirth in the Team Shark 63 Audi. Nearly 3.5 seconds off of the pace as the 63 Audi now comes round the final corner. Takes a tighter apex as there's one of the BMWs just behind. And Neuwirth goes up into 19th place behind Yezny in the number 77 Mercedes. But rather looking competitive here, Nico, between the top 8, all covered by just under a second.
Yeah, more and more people are stabbing into these little lower 54s, sorry, or the higher 53s now, and I think it's just all a thing, you know. At first that is actually not quite the racing line, Ryan. We saw a lot of people stay outside of that 1 second barrier at first, outside of Luke Whitehead's P1 time. But I think that was just the beginning of the qualifying session. A lot of people are close together on track. Of course, you get a little bit of slipstream, but it's just a reflex. When someone brakes right in front of you, you have to brake a little bit earlier. You don't have a clear field of vision. You always have to adapt your line, and that will, of course, slow you down. And now people are getting more and more confident here and getting faster and faster.
Yeah, also the track temperature's increased, Nico, by a single degree. Wind has slightly picked up to about 1 kilometre, and the thing is it's showing optimum, but the clouds being in the way of the sunshine will not help the track temperature as we head to Sheldon Muscat from GT Omega RPM Esports in the number 18 Mercedes AMG GT3, and he's in the Evo. So even though we do have the non-Evo, drivers are allowed, as part of the all-German race, to have decided whether they go for the pre-Evo or the Evo version of the Mercedes. And I would imagine the same would have been said about the Audi R8 LMS, because on Assetto Corsa Competizione there is the non-Evo and there is the Evo version. As Sheldon now makes his way through Advan, heading towards the final chicane, the NGK chicane, before the right-hander that will bring him onto the start-finish straight. Neatly negotiated there by the number 18. And just neatly plants that car where he wants to. I think that's one of the good things with certain drivers. They stick with the same machinery, as Muscat goes ever close through to the wall and decides to park it on the right-hand side. But, you know, Sheldon Muscat, we've always seen a Mercedes machinery. He hasn't chosen anything else, where we do see other drivers deciding to change.
I think it's not quite a bad strategy, to be honest, because the more you drive the same car in all kinds of different situations, the more you just know how to just completely perfectly tune it to the certain conditions. Because I actually know Sheldon Muscat. I got to know him first on track in the SimGrid World Cup when he was driving an Audi R8. So quite some time back then, at the end of last year. And now he's just already completely gotten used to this Mercedes. You can see him get more and more consistent and far better results again and again all over. And I think honestly that is the best kind of strategy that you can do, because the Mercedes is a strong car in quite a lot of tracks, but sometimes it can be tricky to adjust. But if you have completely just shot yourself completely in clearly on the Mercedes, then you know how to fix these issues a lot quicker.
Yeah, it's a very, very good point there. Well said, Nico. I mean, he did also compete in the recent SimGrid 2.4 hours of Imola on the first of their Super Saturdays, a new concept there on the SimGrid. So whether he decides to, you know, he's very, very good. We've seen time and time again that he's had the opportunity of pushing forward, and you know, the as we see sparks fly through, of all places, the Michael Schumacher S's, and I will be using my proper German pronunciation this evening. You'll be pleased to hear, ladies and gentlemen. It's a bit different when it's an all-German night, obviously, with Nico being fully fledged, and I do have bloodline ties with Germany, of course, with the surname. So, yeah, I think Sheldon could be one to watch out for this evening, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, he's quite used to the car. He's used to the track, and you know, last time he drove a GT4 here, but I don't think that is going to cause him any grief whatsoever, because now he's exiting the Hyundai N-Curve again and starting a new lap. Very nicely done already, you know, very deep at the beginning, so he can straighten the car out a bit earlier. As he now goes down to turn 1, I think Gerhard Berger said when this track layout was introduced in 2001 or 2002, this spot was the most exciting part of the circuit. Actually, I think it was Hans-Joachim Stuck.
Yeah, two legends of motorsport in their own right, one of which is the current head of what used to be ITR, the rights holder and also the owners of DTM, which has now changed to under Gerhard Berger's side of things, and also Hans-Joachim Stuck, also president at one time of the DMSB, the German Motorsport Federation, amongst other people. So yeah, just to see some fantastic shots we're actually getting of the circuit here at the Nürburgring, and that's just off the Dunlop curve, which is the hairpin that then brings you into the Michael Schumacher S's. And some cars taking as much curve going into the left-hander, which brings them into the right, and they're really pushing like crazy, as we can see here, Nico.
Yeah, everyone just tries to get that little bit of curb there. And I think they also know if they take too much curb, and you see that a lot in arcade games, people just completely clobber that outside curb on the way into the Michael Schumacher S. They try to clobber that curb and then use the downward motion of the outside to put weight on that car and get the car just turned in better. But overall, in simulators, it just upsets the car too much. So these guys, they know that already. They're trying to slowly take a bit off the curb so they have a bit more space, can take a bit of a wider entrance there, just take more momentum through the corner, but just not do it too violently. And you can see Vishal Patel now improve by quite a bit. Moves up into 8th place, barely within the 1 second window now. And here we have Ashton Cox, another Porsche driver, who is also trying to make last-minute improvements there. This will be his last lap.
Yeah, we get a shot of the virtual medical crew here at the Nürburgring. Yeah, Ashton Cox just ahead of Kirsten Abaya in the number 19 Porsche by just over a tenth and a half. So we now take a brief look at, you can just see what's going on with the in the steward's room at the moment, and the timer now once again has hit 0, and this time it is for qualification, and that is it. And it looks like that Luke Whitehead again got himself a he topped the times in free practice, now tops the times in qualifying ahead of a 2-hour race. So once again you can now see the times there. And Nico, just looking at the top 15 all the way down to Oscar Saristo in the number 9 BMW, they are covered by, what is that? That's just under 2 3/4. That's very, very tight indeed.
Yeah, that is quite tight indeed. And quite honestly, this is just what I absolutely adore about these races here at World Pro Racing. Anyone can just jump in. It's pros, it's, well, figuratively speaking, pro-ams or silvers, and also amps, you know, people who are just starting out in sim racing. And it's just open to anyone. Everyone can join in on the fun. And we just have these nice little pockets in between. So I'd say, you know, the closest racing for the front battles we'll have within, like, the guys who are qualifying within 1 second here. So I think down to Volodia in 9th place in the Mercedes. And then we have the guys who are also, you know, a little bit slower, of course. They have maybe not gotten used as much, or they haven't practiced as much and all that. They're just in here for fun. But all of this is possible, you know, thanks to this open format we have, and it's just such a refreshing picture. You know, we have all these little different battle pockets, so we always just have stuff to look at and stuff to, you know, to talk about. It's very refreshing.
Yeah, so effectively your pole sitter for the all-German 2-hour casual race here at the Nürburgring, the Grand Prix Strecke, as it's more commonly known in Germany. So Luke Whitehead on pole position, Marcus Littlewood, Daniel Ginchard, and Alex Johnston. That's a mouth-watering top 2 rows, isn't it, Nico?
Oh, for sure, especially when we're considering the start of the last 90-minute race. Alex Johnston just stabbing down the inside for the tiniest gap there was, and them going 3 wide into the first corner. It was quite a sight, and honestly, with an even bigger GT3 field now, I'm looking forward to see what will happen this time.
Yeah, so looking at the remainder of the top 10, you've got Sheldon Muscat in 5th, Nathan Thomas in 6th ahead of Paulo Gomez, Vishal Patel. You've then got Volodia and then Renoir from Belgium rounding out the top 10. They're covered by, I'm just having a look at the time here, 1.2 seconds. They do say that times are for show, points are to go, even though we're not having any points, as it looks like they're lined up and ready to go racing here, Nico. This is looking rather there's a lot of anticipation here at the Nürburgring, isn't there?
Yeah, for sure. We have this nice little, actually, yeah, perfect. Here, there we are. Blended in there as it just vanishes off that onboard view, with people still preparing. The BMWs there still up on the jacks, still looking to make some last improvements, or actually just keep the tire blankets on for a little bit warmer. A bit of a secret trick, so to say, from the drivers. And you know, it's all the anticipation. Of course, we have this waiting time still left over, and you know, people can just calm down a little bit again after all the adrenaline of qualifying. But for people like me, for example, when I race, the more the countdown goes down, the more the heartbeat, the pulse goes up, and the excitement, of course, rises exponentially.
It's what the Germans call Schmetterling in Bauch, butterflies in the stomach.
For sure.
I think who is it? I remember Dieter Quester once said that. The legend that is Mr. Dieter Quester, who actually raced alongside Manfred Winkelhock and also Hans-Joachim Stuck as part of the BMW team. So you can now see a lot of you can see the whole field there, Nico. I mean, to be honest with you, we've got a couple of minutes left. I really have got no idea who is going to have that strategy kill. We talked about this at the 90-minute GT3 and GT4 casual race. 3 mandatory pit stops tonight. No requirement on refueling or tyre change. There are people that I mean, out of the cars, which one has the biggest fuel capacity? I'm thinking, is it the Mercedes? Because whoever decides to go long in the first stint is going to have a real good advantage. But what we have seen in previous casual races that are over an hour, we've seen that people have literally gone down to the wire and decided, I'm going to do my last few pit stops in the last 10 minutes. And it just goes to absolute pot. And their strategy is blown clear out of the water. It really is unthinkable about how many different strategy permutations you can have for tonight's race.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, we have a 2-hour race, 3 mandatory pit stops, so people can just try to stack again 30 minutes, 30 minutes, 30 minutes, 30 minutes. Or, as we saw it from one of our podium setters of the last round, just do the entire hour with the Mercedes. I was actually surprised he managed to make it that far on the highest fuel map of the Mercedes, because that thing drinks a lot of fuel. And I think what you were alluding to earlier, what is the highest fuel capacity? I think, funnily enough, the BMW M6. The turbo engine. So what should be probably the lowest fuel consumption also has the highest fuel capacity. So maybe that is something that people can play with. Just stretch the first stint out as long as possible, get new tires then after the halfway point, and get 2 splash and dashes just out of the way towards the end of the race, and try to get the strategy win.
I'm gonna put myself out on a limb here. Samir Foch, 11th position, the leading BMW in the number 8, could be a dark horse tonight. Okay, right, things are about to get underway here at World Pro Racing for the final time this week after what's been 2 fantastic races so far, as we wait to see what happens. As now the drivers get themselves into position. Whitehead and Littlewood will control the pace as they come round the Hyundai N corner here at the Nürburgring. Ladies and gentlemen, one final time here to conclude what's been a fantastic January here at World Pro Racing. Are we ready? Are we steady? Ladies and gentlemen, it is time to go green, green, green. And now they hit the accelerators hard to the floor. Littlewood trying to get alongside Whitehead as Ginchard battling away with Johnston. It's 2x2, hurrah, into the Haughaken for the first time. Whitehead gets the run on Littlewood. Ginchard looking to sneak up the inside. Oh, Johnston runs wide and nearly clatters into the side of Sheldon Scott Muscat. But they get through into the Mercedes arena. Whitehead still leads, Littlewood in second. Ginchard now up into P3 ahead of Johnston. Muscat, Thomas, Gomez, Patel, Volodoya, Renoir rounding out the top 10. As there is Tom Ottey, he must have had a bit of a moment there, and he's showing right down at the back end of the field. He's got the number 9 Porsche just up ahead, so Tom Ottey qualified P17, but in the meantime, Luke Whitehead trying to strike away whilst the iron is hot, and he's got a slight gap over Marcus Littlewood heading into the Dunlop corner.
Yeah, definitely stayed clear of any trouble there, was able to get a clean start, and I mean, right behind him, we already saw the kerfuffling about between all the Porsches, but Sheldon Scott Muscat, I think, he made the best of it right now, is in front of Nathaniel Thomas and Vishal Patel, and that's actually, I think, that was Thomas actually going into the gravel deck there.
Oh, he did a bit
no,
of a...
that was Patel.
Oh, Patel, so that's the 295 that's just had an off-track excursion. There is Felix Seft ahead of Ben Norton, and then Yezny in the number 77 Mercedes with Gergely Kunsabo rounding out the top 21. So at the moment, no drive-through penalties handed out, but it looks like that Volodoya has also dropped down out of the top 14, and now is behind Finland's Oscar Saristo in the number 9 BMW. So the number 7 Volodoya gets drama, and there is Kirsten Abaya going literally straight lining through the NGK chicane. Skenjic there in the number 2. That's the WRT colours, currently rounding out the top 13, and then has Oscar Saristo and Volodoya not too far behind, but then Vishal Patel up the inside of Ryan Renoir from Belgium, and that is going through the exit of the Mercedes arena, and then down all the way. They're going to head down towards the next few corners, but they're battling tooth and nail. But Nico, the more interesting thing I've just caught through the side of my eye there is that Littlewood is only 0.6 off of Whitehead. Ginchard's a further second adrift off in P3. Johnston's a further half second adrift. So the gaps between, well, it looks like Littlewood and Whitehead have opened up the taps on both the Audi and the Porsche to really get away from those drivers behind. There's Luca Ziga in the number 5 Porsche, having just got past Jorge Afonseca, I believe they're in the 912. Well, that's a little bit further back, I think, is Afonseca. Sinan Abel just complete the top 30. Looks like Afonseca's had, looks like someone else has had a massive moment. That is the bright purple Mercedes, as Afonseca in the Wright Motorsports coloured 912. And there is Sheldon Muscat he's battling away with Nathan Thomas, and Thomas really trying to seize the opportunity as the sunshine starts to bring a bit more colour and a bit more light to the track, with the temperature now up a further degree, up to 19 degrees Celsius air and 19 degrees track temperature at the moment.
And we could just see it very nicely there. The light is reflecting through the last corner, and from experience I know that is where the sun really starts going up, and from experience from being at the track myself, I know that will be blinding drivers quite a lot as they're going to the last corner, as we have Volodia now here in 13th place. Right behind him we have two Audis side by side, and actually a little bit of contact there. Jan Ryler getting sent a little bit wide and thinks better of it to just try and be careful around Gomez. And he also has to look out though, because he has the BMW art car of Chev right behind him.
Yeah, then also Ben Norton in the number 15 BMW just behind him as well. Kirsten Abaya just ahead of Ashton Cox, as then you got Neuwirth there just battling away. That was with Yaziunas, who has tumbled down the order quite unceremoniously there and looks to be possibly out of the top 25 as all. Abaya turns around Neuwirth and causes an absolute a carambolage of nigh on biblical proportions. Ashton Cox exits stage right to get out of the way and manages to make it through, but that was a move that was never going to happen.
Yeah, quite optimistic to say the least, and sadly I don't think that Neuwirth was just expecting him to go down the inside there. At the same time, of course, starting to turn in, and I think Abaya, after he got out of the Mercedes arena, got a little bit too optimistic. So, yeah, bit of a shame what happened, but of course we have to carry on. But speaking of incidents, we have our first penalty from the stewards. Number 69, that is Otti, a 5-second penalty for an incident between himself, oh actually no, not between himself, with two other cars, which is the number 5 and the number 15.
Ziga and Norton were the other two drivers that were involved, so that was why they were very much out of position. Once again, Adrian Figalo, our official race director here at World Pro Racing, as Pedro Gomez decides to jump into the pits with less than... Oh, that's a very, very good call. Just after the first 6.25 minutes, Pedro Gomes in the VML Rookie Monsters Audi jumps into the pits, and it looks like there's another one coming in too. So 3 mandatory pit stops as Dan Ginchard feeling the heat under the collar, courtesy of Alex Johnston. And this is the battle for P3. Spoke with Ginchard actually a little bit earlier on. He asked me, first of all, was I commentating this evening? He said, well, hopefully after last night that he was feeling a bit more confident coming into this race. So we'll see how he gets on. As Johnston goes, I think he had a little bit of a touch with Ginchard there. And that has allowed Sheldon Muscat to go like a rat up a drain pipe up the inside of the pair of them into P3. And now Ginchard is no. That was definitely Sheldon Muscat going to the shadow realm there. Sorry, I've taken a leaf out of your book there, Nico.
But yeah, I think we might have lost him to the gods of unstable connections there. Very unfortunate, especially after that very nicely executed move of waiting until the others take each other out. And yeah.
Yeah, I've just had a message from... our broadcast director, Justin, he said that Sheldon's disconnection, it seems, and the words, and I quote for the millionth time, it's a real shame because we know how quick Sheldon is when he's on his A game. We're now on board with the number 72 Porsche of Cornelius Yaziunas, and there is Kirsten Abaya, who's dropped. Oh, there's more moments. Now, was that... That was so. I wasn't too sure who got tangled up with who, but there was an Audi definitely involved there. That must have been Neuwirth again, I fear, and probably Ashton Cox, as we're on board with Gergely Kunsabo, who's just behind the number 5 Porsche of Luca Ziga from Germany in the number 5. And that's the battle for 21st position as we ride on board with the BMW M6. I like the team name for Gergely Kunsabo, Minimum Effort Racing Team. I think it was quite funny what he put for the GT4s on Tuesday night, as in I love Justin Mifsud. I was the first one to spot that because Justin put it straight on the broadcast channel. And I thought, yeah, Jan Heiler now in the pits in the 333 Audi from 16th position. But even with just under 10 minutes of this race completed here, Nico, it is quite literally all kicking off here in the Eiffels.
Yeah, for sure. We just have, as I said, we have battles everywhere from all different skill groups. Now, nice little drone view as they're coming down to the Ford curve there. Drone flying along the inside barrier and now right over Gergely Kunsabo's BMW. What a nice view there. Jan Reiler actually speeding in pit lane though. So that's a stop and go 30-second penalty, and that's not quite what he wanted probably.
Yeah. That's dropped him. That's going to drop him, I think, the way things are going. Well, he's definitely dropped outside of the top 25. Basically, a big thank you. Oh, massive moment there for Ziga. That was Yaziunas, and Gergely Kunsabo gets the door open. Oh, and that's caused carnage behind. Jorge Afonseca. Absolute nightmare for the drivers behind. I counted at least 6 cars involved in that. Afonseca will have massive damage. Enzi Esni from Sweden in the 77 also comes a cropper, and that's in the first 10 minutes as the sunlight really starts beaming down the track. Temperature has really started to increase, and it will start to increase over the next few moments. But this in endurance racing, Nico, is what they say at Le Mans is called happy hour, because as the temperature increases, the tyre pressure increases, the cars feel more planted, they really feel hooked up.
Yeah, just after the first 10 minutes, you properly have pressure in the tyres, and of course, when you're on brand new tyres, it just takes 1 or 2 laps to just get them properly worn in. So that's when you have peak grip, that's when you get optimistic, but in this case, maybe a little bit too optimistic. But of course, not only that, the Michael Schumacher S, despite only being a little, well, flat out, basically a chicane up the hill, it's still just so difficult to get it on perfectly. And the left-hand curb, due to it being so high, it's just a prime time spot for big crashes to happen, as we saw just now.
Yeah, it might be called the Michael Schumacher S's, but it's more like a left-right kink, effectively, isn't it? It's just like you're accelerating going through it, and you've got to be ultra committed and have full confidence in not just your skills as a driver, but also the setup and also the way that the car's reacting. As we see that Luke Whitehead has got Marcus Littlewood behind, and the gap last time was just under 2.1 seconds. It's now gone up to 2.6. Dan Ginchard rounds out the top three in the number 37 Porsche. And, okay, right. Johnston, Thomas, Patel, Renoir are round out the top 7. And look at it. It is a C from Stuttgart. Some aforementioned Audis, including the likes of Romanik and Ohak. Then we've got Samir Foch in the number 8 Audi ahead of Oscar Saristo. So Saristo started in 15th and has already made up 4 positions. Boychev in the 64 Porsche actually, I think, started outside of the top 25 and now is up into 12th position. Felix Zefs now up into 13th and started P20. And there is Jamsran, who started also towards the bottom of the grid. JP Sleater is pitting for the first time. Mats Walden, another one of the regulars here at World Pro Racing in the number 13 Audi, battling away. I think that's Ashton Cox trying to go towards the outside into the Haughaken, and the Porsche trying to pull alongside the Audi. 5.2 litre V10 naturally aspirated engine versus a 3.8 litre flat 6 turbocharged Boxster engine, and it looks like Ashton Cox there, Nico, got the job done nice and early. Really anticipated going towards the outside of the Haughaken to get the inside run going through into the Mercedes arena.
Yeah, really well done from him there. Actually, perfectly just used all the advantages of the Porsche there, having that bit more traction, and it's just so many different lines you can take through the first 2 corners of the Mercedes arena. You can go for an undercut, you can go for just a normal move down the inside, but you have to place your car right there. And really, Cox just absolutely, completely put no single foot wrong there. Absolutely perfectly executed. And we have also a lot of people pitting now after these accidents. So a lot of people further back will gain more places. And a few people, I see Afonseca there, the next stop-and-go penalty for being a bit too fast in the pit lane. So, of course, after a big crash, we want to get back to the pits as quickly as possible to repair the damage. But, guys, watch out for the pit speed limit. It's only 50 kilometers an hour.
Yeah, that's 2 so far in the first 14 minutes of this race. But Luke Whitehead, at the moment, remaining pretty much untroubled, apart from when we went into the Haughaken for the first time. Took pole earlier on. Littlewood, Ginchard and Johnston. It's as you were at the moment. Felix Zeff in the number 10 BMW now pits from what was around about sort of 12th or 13th position. Well, 13th position, as Volodya now takes P13. Ben Norton and then Jamsran will then end up in 14th and 15th respectively. But yes, 2 drivers already hit with an SP30. Andrea Rizzo in the number 80 Audi, currently running out P22. Pedro Gomez in the number 44 Audi has already done a pit stop and has got, that is Alex Johnston in the 248 that has just gotten past, but Johnston yet to make a pit stop. And that's the biggest thing. If you get a stop go 30 or a drive through, Nico, obviously 2 hours is a long time behind the wheel of one of these GT3 cars, and we've seen it before, you and I, where, say for example, the 90-minute multi-class this past Tuesday, within, towards the last sort of quarter of the race, people were starting to get tired, and that's when you start making mistakes.
Yeah, for sure. And I think not only just tired, I think people are just getting a little bit lightheaded, because, of course, you just drove around 70 minutes, it's still 20 minutes to go, and you're thinking, well, I got almost 90% of the race done, I can relax a little bit. But then you just relax in the wrong moment, and it ends up becoming your last moment of the race by accident, while there's still 15 minutes to go.
Yes, indeed. So there is Ashton Cox from Onyx Esports, Now, Ashton started P23. He's now in 22nd position. Obviously, he'd gotten a little bit further up, but there have been a few moments. We are getting word now again from Race Control. They are having to look through at incidents. You can see them now in the picture-in-picture on your screens at home. So Adrian Figado is now relaying communications to us here in the commentary box. Zrizzo and Esni on Kunsabo. Esni gets a drive-through penalty for causing an avoidable collision. It looks like we might be getting more than just that. Adrian is typing away. Ashton Cox looking up the inside of Rizzo through into the Haughaken and then gets a really good run. The Audi goes to the left-hand side, but that allows Skendic to try and close the gap, and I think might have just gotten past the number 2 Audi. That is the case. So the number 2 up another position. So the number 25 Audi of Sin now drops down to 24th. And also Abaya on Neuwirth. Drive-through penalty after a collision between the pair on lap 3. So Abaya has another drive-through. So already, Nico, within the first 20 minutes, we've had 2 drive-through penalties and 2 stop-go 30s. I'm going to be keeping an eye on this rather closely throughout the race.
Yeah, I think this is still just the beginning. And, I mean, could you still call that a long-time commentator's curse? Because on Tuesday, when the race was happening, we were talking about how we had way more incidents and way more penalties being spoken out than we normally do. I think we may have just a long-term, over half a week, commentators curse the situation. So now our 2 stewards there do have to do even more work.
I think the thing is that now that is an Audi off in the gravel, off of Dunlop, which has started to get going. I have a feeling that is the 333 of probably Jan Heiler. Heiler's down in 31st position. So it's not going, and that was the car that literally, a big thank you to Nathan Musa. I'm wondering, with that off-track excursion, the aero balance, if there's damage to the front splitter of that Audi, Jan Heiler will have a very unhappy car, and he might be wise to possibly do a second pit stop if he needs to repair damage. So that could really get another pit stop out of the way for him. Maybe have to do a one-stopper for the remainder of the race, as possibly Sergio Perez would do if he was in sports cars. But no, he's in Formula 1.
Yeah, and it's just quite difficult overall, I'd say, with the current situation. If you already did one of your pit stops, it's first of all quite early. Of course, sometimes you are impeded by a crash or something, I think right now it's a quite difficult spot overall anyway, because people had to pit, they either get a stop-go, and of course, if they're involved in the crash, if they cause the crash, some of them get another bit of penalty then, and they have to come in again if they cause the crash. So it just shows how important it is to just stay clean at the beginning of the race, because a lot of people are very tempted to just send it, and everyone, you can't tell me that there's a racing driver who doesn't love to just send it down the inside of another guy driving. And if contact happens there when there's so many cars around you and you cause a big accident, of course you're going to get penalized quite massively.
Yeah, very, very true there. We're just over 20 minutes completed in this race as we are back with Jan Heiler in the 333. Oh, and that goes sideways, going through the left-hander into that was Bierkova. And looks like Ziga just is not that far behind and gets the inside run going through into Advan. So the Porsche doing a really good job there, as you can now see. Quite a lot happening here. And this is where back marker traffic can really start going in. But there's a car that I've just seen. Now, was that off the Michael Schumacher S's that I've just seen on the gravel on the outside? And there's Kirsten Abaya now leaving the pits, having served the drive-through penalty. So we'll have to still make 3 mandatory pit stops. Nathan Thomas in the number 70 Omega E Racing Team Porsche, being closed in on by Vishal Patel in the car just behind Pedro Gomes. We now go on board with, and has got Tom Ottey just up ahead. I believe that is the case, but you can see that there is an Audi just behind number 44. It's across the line. Gomez does a 1 minute 58.4 and goes defensive, and that is not for position. That is the 73 Audi, I believe, that's just gone round the outside through the Haughaken. So not a battle for position. Good spatial awareness there that Pedro Gomez went to the right-hand side going into the Haughaken there, Nico, just to make sure that he kept out of the way, because back marker traffic coming into a full effect within the first 25 minutes of this 2-hour race.
I mean, that's always the problem with bigger crashes happening at the start. Of course you want to race for the overall win, because we're all in GT3 cars here, and of course you want to battle for the overall positions then. But if there's an accident, any sort of accident, or even people with a drive-through penalty or something from the start, very quickly you're going to meet traffic, and very quickly you have to adapt to that situation. And a lot of people, of course, while they're still trying to catch back up, if you of course get a penalty, they then have to deal with that problem of letting people pass while not losing too much time. And speaking of losing time, there is a 5-second penalty for the number 44, that is Gomez, for an incident with Jan Reiler. So 5-second penalty for him. Not the worst penalty overall, but of course that is time that gets added to the next pit stop.
Indeed, we've seen that before. I've seen that before in many leagues that I commentate on through Assetto Corsa Competizione, where I think it was a race that one of the races. It was it was actually the 2.4 hours of the sim grid at Imola, and the driver, it was George Boothby, and he was running up front in the top 2, had a 5-second time penalty for an incident, and instantly he lost out on the victory, but still made it on the podium because the 2 leaders made their final pit stop on the final lap, and the guy in third shot past them on the start-finish straight. That's how much 5 seconds can change the complete complexity of the race. We're on lap number 13. Marcus Littlewood still behind Luke Whitehead, who continues to lead in number 404 Audi by just under 3.1 seconds. Vishal Patel has got the likes of Nathan Thomas. You've also got Renoir, and then also Lucas Romanek I've just spotted. Ashton Cox now up into the top 20 and is closing down on Yazzie Younas in the 72 PC Boys Porsche in 19th place, and Skenzik just behind in the number 2 Audi. They ran out the top 21 positions. So at the moment, the BMWs are starting to sort of get into their stride a little bit here, where we see the likes of Foch and Saristo not yet having pitted. Norton in 14th, Kunsabo in 16th. So the BMW is actually doing pretty well at the moment, aren't they? They're getting up to pace.
Yeah, I think overall that is probably the biggest advantage of the BMW, because it has a very long wheelbase, it's very wide, and the fuel tank is sitting relatively center of the car. So I think overall, when you're just driving, in the Porsche, for example, you have that problem. The fuel tank is sitting in the front, so of course you get faster because the car gets lighter, but you get less weight, as we have that absolute move down the inside from Ashton Cox down the inside of Yazzie Younas just before the Ford curve. But as I was saying, you lose weight on the front axle, so in low-speed corners, on acceleration, you actually lose front-end grip. And in the BMW, that problem is not there, because it's just such a center fuel tank. It is quite balanced the entire time.
Skenzik has also now got past Yazzie Younas, so the number 72 Porsche drops from 19th to 21st within a few corners, as Skenzik goes up the inside through Dunlop, as Ashton Cox nearly runs a little bit wide, and there is Lucas Romanek in the pits, number 73 Onyx Esports Audi R8 LMS GT3 Evo, And that's one of the good things. If your pit box is right at the end of the pit lane, you haven't got that long before you can actually mash the loud pedal.
Yeah, that is definitely nice. Especially if it's the very last pit stop there. Pit stall, I mean. With the pit limit on, there's a little bit of difficulty with some cars of actually launching the car properly. But, of course, there we see it. Very nice burnout immediately, and no pit limiter needed. Luckily enough, it stays just under 50 kilometers an hour there, and that is just the perfect position to have in the entire pit lane. So Romanek uses that fully to his advantage. Now coming out in 19th place, just in front of the number 72 Porsche.
Yeah, Jonas. So, and the thing is that for anyone that has watched the ADAC 24 hours of the Nürburgring Nordschleife, you'll see that as the cars get, I think the cars are not given any mechanical sympathy by the drivers. Where you see the teams will sometimes push the tailgate or the rear wing to get the clutch to engage the starter mechanism on the car to get them out of the pit lane. We won't have that problem here for the 2-hour casual race. There's Alex Johnston. He's in the pits at the moment, and he now will take his first of 3 mandatory pit stops. Don't forget, if you want to join us as a racer here on World Pro Racing, you can head to our official website, head to worldproracing.com. There will be further information about our upcoming races. You can head to the website. You can also register with us. We run not only the casual races, we run championships. We also have special events, and also we work with PC and PS4. So like Assetto Corsa Competizione, R Factor 2, and also Gran Turismo Sport, amongst other platforms. And Whitehead really getting into his stride now. There's Skenzik closing on Ashton Cox, but then he's got, he's been passed by Romanek. So Romanek's got those tyres really switched on early in that Audi, hasn't he, Nico?
Yeah, that is definitely a thing that you can do, because the Audi is one of the cars that is, let's say, more aggressive on the tyres, together with the McLaren, which is, of course, not allowed here today because it is a British car. Also built on a Japanese engine block, but that is a half spin for Skenzik. A little bit too much rotation under brakes. So I think he's not gonna quite want to do that again, as we are just speaking about the Audi using a lot of tires. And also then Chev in his art car BMW coming through, and giving Skenzik here a little reminder that these cars, that the Audi is a little bit lighter in mass compared to the BMW, because honestly I think if you have direct contact with these two cars, in the BMW it's more of a nudge, and in the Audi it's going to feel like an earthquake.
Yeah, probably at least 7.9 on the Richter scale if you were at Suzuka. Another stop-go penalty has been issued, and this time it is for the number 5 of Lucas Ziga. A stop-go 30 for rejoining the track, an unsafe rejoin, and causing a major incident, including another 3 vehicles. So that is our third stop-go penalty. I am actually taking a note of how many penalties our race director Adrian Figalo and also our race steward George Muscat are working through. They had well over 30 separate incidents to look over, and 12 penalties were issued at the 90 minutes of the Nürburgring multi-class this past Tuesday. But we are now into the second quarter, so we've had 30 minutes elapse, and at the moment, if we just have a look at the gaps between the drivers, Luke Whitehead leads the way by just over 4.6 seconds ahead of this man on your screens at the moment, Marcus Littlewood. Dan Ginchard, and as I say that, what we will find there is that Littlewood now going into the pits, and they're all coming into the pits, quite a few of them. So Whitehead in the pits, Littlewood in the pits, Kunsabo in the pits, Skenzik, Abaya, they're all going into the pits. and this is where things could get rather untidy. But Nico, pit stops, ideal opportunity. If you short fuel it, get a couple of seconds advantage over your opponent, you can jump them in the pit stop window.
That is for sure. Of course, you also have to stay on your current tires then, which after half an hour, I don't think it's too difficult, because these tires should last you around 1.5 hours without losing any major pace. So yeah, we also have, as we talked about the penalties though, we also have some more interesting insights. As we saw earlier, we have our stewards, and with their huge office, or well, basically pit board, that they're working on for all the penalties and all that. And Alex, if we would do the honors, we could actually quickly have a quick talk with Adrian again.
Yes, hi Adrian. I know it's been a busy evening. You guys, you and George have already handed out 3 stop go 30s, 2 drive-through penalties, and added 5 seconds to another driver as well. I think that was Gomez. But how many incidents so far would you say that you guys have had to quickly review over the last 30 minutes?
Actually, till now, I have reviewed about 11 incidents. So some of them obviously enough were like spins, and obviously some race incidents which obviously no further action would have been taken, and the rest, as you well know, have been handed down till now, and reviewing another incident right now.
Well, you see, he's got time to talk to us here in the commentary box, and they're still busy working away. Well, Adrian, we'll let you get back to it and give our best regards to George as well.
Sure, I will. Thank you. And
cheers. Okay, so now with the pit stop phase is now well and truly underway. Vishal Patel from PC Boys Racing in the 295 Porsche is currently leading by just over 2.1 seconds from Belgium's Ryan Renoir. Samir Foch up into 3rd ahead of Finland's Oscar Saristo. Then we've got Boychev, Volodya Whitehead rejoins in 7th ahead of Ben Norton. Marcus Littlewood in 9th. Dan Ginchard rounds out the top 10. Alex Johnson, David Orhak, Nathan Thomas, Lucas Romanek, Jamsran in 15th. Ashton Cox and Felix Sef round out the top 17 ahead of Yaz Yunus. Neuwirth and Abel round out the top 20 so far. And Nico, in many respects, even though we're 18 laps in, there's still plenty of laps still to run here at the Nürburgring.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, we're literally just past the first quarter, and a lot of people already opt for a quite early pit stop. Luke Whitehead actually, again, like in the 90-minute multi-class race, going for a rather early pit stop in comparison. But Vishal Patel, Renoir, Foch, Saristo, they're all waiting, I think, to actually make that first stint as long as possible. And quite honestly, I think that is a quite good idea.
Yeah, Volodya now in the pits from P7. So some of the drivers, I think that is the 77 of Esni Esni, just in front of Patel. There's Dan Ginchard, and he is now ahead of Alex. Yeah, he's ahead of Alex Johnston, but Johnston trying to give the number 37 the hurry up, and they've now just come through the Ford cover on the... it's very reminiscent, Nico, and I think you probably agree with me. The run down from Ford down to Dunlop is very much like going through the Parabolica at Hockenheim, but obviously you haven't got this massive camber to deal with like you have got here at the Nürburgring.
Yeah, that's for sure, and especially since this existed quite a bit longer, Parabolica could have inspiration from that. Besides, of course, well, wanting a straight line that isn't quite straight to make a way for the hairpin at Hockenheim, but either way, it's just generally, well, almost eerily similar, making the long way and then into a very tight corner. And just overall, I think it just brings a little bit more spice into it, because you have to also look into the camber a little bit, and also just... It's a bit of a way to the side, and of course it seems simple enough to just drive side by side here, but more often than not we see it that people, even when driving side by side through minimum amount of how do you say it? Minimum amount of corner, like a little kink or something. You know, there's still contact to be made.
Yep, as Boychev showing in the pits. Ginchard being hustled once again, as that is Luka Ziga being passed by both Ginchard and Johnston. So these two really battling away. They've already done a mandatory pit stop, but one of the clear things here now, ladies and gentlemen, as Ashton Cox now pits from P16, handing that position to the number 72 Porsche Vyaziunas. The sunshine is coming. The temperatures now will start getting these cars a bit more lively, as there's Ryan Renoir in the number 732. Making his way down into the NGK chicane. Mats Walden in 27th position has the number 72 of Yaziunas going past, and Walden goes for a spin and then decides to reverse out of the way to just try and get the car pointed in the right direction. Jamslan now being passed by, I think that is Luke Whitehead in the 404 that has just gone past, and Jamslan has decided to go grass tracking. Luke Whitehead now back up into P5, but when Patel, Renoir, Foch and also Saristo have pitted, Whitehead will be back in the lead, as that is Marcus Littlewood. So now Ginchard, I just saw at the side of the track. Ginchard was at the side of the track, but he's had a moment. He's down into 8th place now.
I wonder what happened there. That's a quite unusual place to actually go off at. Was it perhaps what I alluded to earlier, with contact through the kink and then him spearing off to the right side into the grass?
Well, he's actually flashing the back marker just up ahead of him in the BMW, just like sort of motion to him saying, look, mate, you just need to get out of the way. I'm wondering now, was there if we can get a replay of that, that would be rather interesting to see, because with the back marker traffic, I mentioned this earlier, Nico, the back markers can play a little bit of havoc, because what that has done is that Ginchard may have been off track, maybe because of Ben Norton. I'm not too sure, but now he's holding up Alex Johnston, and Ben Norton could really have. Well, I think the thing is that Norton was in front of Ginchard. So whether there was contact between the pair, not too sure. We're not going to deliberate about it anymore. But now Ginchard will be fired up. Johnston's trying to go around going towards the inside of Dunlop, and sends it from another German postcode or another district in Germany up the inside of Norton to get the position. But the thing is, what that says to me here, Nico, is that with just over an hour and 21 minutes to go in, those BMW's tyres on Ben Norton's car, I think they might be starting to drop off the cliff a little bit.
Quite honestly, Norton was one of the guys more towards the middle of the field. What shows that to me more is that the people who pitted very early, they will now have to deal with the consequences of that. Of course, it's a lot easier to just push from the start. When you have a lighter car, you have tyres not too much to worry about normally. But Ginchard and Johnston are the best examples now. You see those two. You see the orange number 2 right next to their car number. You see the number 3 next to Norton's number. That is because he hasn't pitted yet. Now he's coming in, but he's in a completely different field. Of course, he was on track right next to them, but he's not in their battle. But all they did just now was lose time on them. And honestly, that is the big downside that can happen when you're trying to fight in these kinds of battles with strategy.
Yep, so we're coming into just 40 minutes completed of the old German 2-hour casual race here at the Nürburgring GP circuit with Alex Goldschmidt and Nico Hildbrand, your commentators for tonight, here live and uninterrupted on World Pro Racing, on the relevant Twitch, YouTube and Facebook streams, also on Malta's TVM Sport, motorsport.tv, and also our good friends over at eSports TV. There is Ben Norton taking a little bit of a lengthy pit stop, but obviously if he's deciding, from my perspective here, Nico, he's just run for nearly 40 minutes with that car. I don't think he's going to brim it. He's going to brim it to where he feels it's going to be absolutely necessary. And this is going to drop him out of the top 15. But if he fuels for that little bit longer, he might go for the apparent splash and dash strategy that you were talking about earlier.
quite honestly, I think that would be the best idea in the BMW, because the biggest strength of a BMW is, that is actually crossing the pit lane exit line there. But the biggest strength of it is that it can go just that little bit longer in comparison to all of the other GT3 cars, because of the turbo engine, because of the big fuel tank that the BMW has. So, yeah, it's quite difficult overall. I think one of the frontrunners, of the current frontrunners actually, Sir Foch, he's actually up in 2nd or 3rd place right now, still hasn't pitted, and I think he's just trying to run as long as possible and then do 2 very short splash and dashes. Because as you said, when you're not changing tires, you want to fill in as little fuel as possible. So just 1 liter of fuel, put that in there, get back out, and just be done with that pit stop. And as we have another send there, that is Gunsabo getting lapped, I think, from the 732, or unlapping themselves.
That was Hunwar on the 732, who started in P10, and he's absolutely grabbing that Porsche by the scruff of the neck, and Gunsabo not really taking very much a liking to that, as Hunwar is effectively the de facto leader. So the 732 of Hunwar and the 8 of Foch, the top 2 drivers, and look at the amount of numbers, the amount of drivers that have got the numbers 2 against their name now. The top 2 so far, with nearly 45 minutes of this race completed, have yet to pit, and Hunwar is definitely going on. I think if Foch has gone full tank on that BMW, that could be an inspired choice, but it just depends on how long Hunwar is going to go into the race before making a first mandatory pit stop.
Yeah, and quite honestly, the Porsche overall, I would say this is probably just from personal driving preference, from my experience of driving with the Porsche. I would probably say that the Porsche is more one of the cars where it's worth it to do shorter stints, simply because you just want to keep, of course, little fuel in, but still a little bit of spare fuel to keep a bit of weight on the front axle. And a lot of drivers actually get along with that way better, to have a bit more grip on the front axle than just have that bit less weight overall, simply because it just gives you a more consistent front axle grip relationship with the track while you're just trying to push on the limit.
Yeah, as Reese Sin gets passed by, I think there was a Porsche that just went up the inside of the number 25 Mercedes. So Sin currently running out the top 26 positions, and catches the gravel a little bit there. I think there was the 64 Porsche that just got past going through, and there is Asko Abo, the Estonian, in the number 71 ABL Racing Audi, currently running at the top 15. And is ahead of the number 69 of Tom Otti in the BMW. He's running at the top 16, ahead of Gergely Gunsabo. Ben Norton in 18th position at the moment, having served his first of 3 mandatory pit stops, as Asko Abel now comes into the pits. That unleashes Tom Otti in that 4.4 litre BMW twin turbocharged, the M twin power. That's what they like their engines to be referred to now when it's a twin scroll turbo, especially with the new S58 engine. Straight 6 that will push out about 500 horsepower from the forthcoming BMW M4 GT3 based on the new generation car. And that has already been, let's just say, it's already had its racing debut courtesy of the esports world.
Yeah, so overall, actually quickly sticking to esports here in relationship to, of course, real racing as well. Very nice here as well, by the way. We're having our race here, 2 hours, and meanwhile the start of the Daytona 24 Hours in real life is also underway, so quite nice to see esports and racing still existing side by side. But the big thing here is that BMW is one of the brands that has actually invested quite a lot of money and quite a lot of effort into the esports world, as well as Porsche actually. But BMW is, I think, a big exception, because that car has its racing debut courtesy of iRacing, for example, with the M4. And then we also have, for example, the BMW M2 Cup on rFactor 2, which is, just, it spreads so wide, and BMW is just fully embracing that. Even now, with, I think, the biggest crossover between the two disciplines, with the biggest crossover with the steering wheel of the M4 being made by Fanatec, actually, and the exact same wheel being, there for purchase for just regular sim racers like you and me.
Yeah, and the person behind the wheel of the M4 GT3 Austria's Philipp Eng, and in that broadcast was also 2011 DTM champion Martin Tomczyk. And it was really funny. Speaking of Martin Tomczyk, also he went into both him and Antonio Felix da Costa, who finished their DTM careers back in 2016. I happen to know because that was a very interesting weekend. I was there as part of the accredited media, and Martin has ended up doing a lot of work with BMW, especially in GT racing. Augusto Farfus has been doing a lot of GT racing in years past. Bruno Spengler, 2012 DTM champion when BMW made their return to the DTM. But yeah, speaking of BMW, they were actually the winners of the inaugural 24 hours of the Nürburgring Nordschleife back in 1970, and then the 50th, the half centenary anniversary race in 2020. They won it there as well, and they're the most successful manufacturer here at the Nürburgring on the 24 hours of the Nordschleife, and I think that was one of the last times that we are going to see the M6 GT3 as a customer team car at the Nordschleife with the M4 GT3 on the horizon. Asko Abel, as we now get back from our digression, talking about BMW and the long history it has with the Nürburgring, we go back to the race, and that was a bag. Oh, that was Vishal Patel. That was Patel that just went into the back of Abel, and that was, I think, it was a bag by past the number 19. And in the picture that is Jamsran and the number 17 Audi that is currently in there. But also, Nico, since the race started, we're now up 2 degrees track temperature to 20 degrees Celsius. It looks like the sunshine is definitely going to shine its presence here at the Nürburgring.
Yeah, and overall I think sunshine of course is the best conditions, but we said it last time, the weather here changes quite often. We have this old going joke of wait 5 minutes and the weather is different, but it sometimes is like that on the Nürburgring. Luckily by now it still seems like we're going to have a bit longer of this beautiful sunshine, even though there's still a lot of shadows there because of course the sun isn't quite that high yet. But either way, people will probably be quite happy with the conditions right now, especially here in the Mercedes arena. We saw a lot of spins here before, also courtesy of the marbles on the outside of some of the corners, but simply because the Mercedes arena is a quite slippery part of the circuit, even in perfect dry conditions.
Yes, indeed, and I still remember there is a documentary about the coming back to the 24 hours of the Nürburgring. It's based around the 2011 24 hours, because in 2010 the likes of Augusto Farfus, Pedro Lamy, who with the latter being one of the most successful drivers on the 24 hours of the Nürburgring Nordschleife, with 5 victories along with Marcel Thiemann, and of course German sports car and Le Mans legend Timo Bernhard, who now runs his own racing team, Team 75, if memory serves me correctly. The honour list goes on and on and on. I'm just looking, Fritz Müller, Marc Lieb, Romain Dumas, Klaus Ludwig, Hans-Joachim Stuck, who we've mentioned. He won on the first ever race. He was there in 1970, winning his first of 3 Nürburgring 24 hours, and then in 2004 he said, when he was being asked by the fans, I was racing here in 1970. They were like, I can't believe that. And it was an M3 CSL, if memory serves me correctly, 2004. So the amount of drivers that have won BMW have won the 24 Hours of the Nürburgring 20 times, Porsche 12 times, Ford back between 79 and 87 won it 5 times, Audi won it 5 times, the last of which was in 2019. And the drivers were Pierre Kaffer, Frank Stippler, Frederik Verwisch, and Dries Van Tor with Phoenix Racing. Nick Tandy is also on the honour list. Kelvin van der Linde from South Africa, Maho Engel, Bernd Schneider, Adam Christodoulou, amongst others. There is just literally, I'm looking through the names and I'm like thinking, everyone wants to win at the 24 Hours of the Nürburgring Nordschleife. So that is a lot of history there, but you can see that the race is unfolding in the meantime. And so far, Luke Whitehead still leads by just over 4.7 seconds from Foch in the number 8 BMW, who still has yet to make a first mandatory pit stop. But the interesting thing here, Nico, is that as we get to the halfway point, a lot of drivers have done their first pit stop, but I would say in the next 15 minutes or so, we could see another raft of pit stops from a lot of the drivers, especially at the sharp end of the grid.
Oh, for sure. I mean, overall, what's actually quite interesting now is Whitehead actually passed Foch again, and Foch hasn't even been in the pits for the first time yet. So, obviously playing the quite long game, maybe the longest game that we'll see at this point to, allow the bad joke on that side. But, oh, that was actually quite close again, and is that... no, that isn't Whitehead. Whitehead has a different paint scheme. But yeah, we see people now coming in again and again, all around the circuit, all around the different positions they're in, and at this point it's going to be quite tricky now to actually adjust to the strategies of other people, because we now have the field spread so far across the entire circuit in all these different positions and just all these different situations they're in with lap traffic. They'll now have to play a little bit of lottery now. When is the best time to get into the pit lane?
Yes, and it's all about that key strategy call. We're just over 6 3/4 minutes to go until we hit the halfway point here at the 2-hour all-German casual race. Just a brief reminder of future programming coming up. You can head to worldproracing.com/events. So we've got the 911 GT3R at Brands Hatch Casual Race. All slots on the grid are sold out. The penultimate round of the second season of World Pro Racing Assetto Corsa Competizione Sprint Series taking place at Circuit Zolder in Belgium with Jake Sperry and Kieran McGinley, your official commentators. They'll be also doing the final round, round 5 at Spa-Francorchamps a week later on the 12th. You've then also got the Nightmaster race at Spa-Francorchamps on the 9th of February, which I'll be back in the commentary box. Nico will be doing the Brands Hatch Porsche 911 GT3 race next week, and then we've got the Rainmaster race at Barcelona, the Circuit de Catalunya Barcelona, 16th of February. Nico will be back in the commentary box for that one, and that all events are at 20:30. That's 8:30 p.m. CET, as we see a moment from Yazzie Younas there, who's currently in 20th position, but Ashton Cox bearing down on the number 72. And at the moment, we still have 25 places available on the grid for the Rainmaster at Barcelona event. So the format for the casual races will be a 15-minute... well, it will depend on what race you go on to. Spa, it will be at the dead of night, like literally the witching hour. So I'll effectively have the graveyard shift on that one, I think, Nico. But this will be preparing everyone for what is coming soon, and there are endurance races in development here on World Pro Racing. So we are going to literally, in the words of Spinal Tap, crank the volume up here on World Pro Racing to the volume number 11.
I think honestly, endurance races is everything that people want in racing, because you have this mix of sprint racing, of course, because you want to try and race each other as close as possible all the time. But at the same time, you have to rely on your teammates. Your teammates also have to look out for you, while you are driving, and they have to spot for you. They have to give you information, just so everything can work the best for you. And I think it'll make a very, very welcome addition to the program that World Pro Racing is already running, which overall is already quite impressive, because there's just such versatility and everything. And oh my goodness me, that is as an Audi just barely at the exit of Dunlopgere, just spinning off to the inside. A little bit unexpected there. But yeah, World Pro Racing expanding their already quite broad program, and I just welcome it. It is a very nice beginning step for people to get into sim racing, to get into a very good, very well run and very professional environment.
Couldn't agree more there, Nico. There was a lot of talks on the end of year party here on World Pro Racing, and you can just see some great camera shots by Nathan on the cameras. He's doing an absolutely fantastic job. He's also the one that's been able to do the manual drone shots here on Assetto Corsa Competizione. So for a brief moment, we're actually looking to your left. You can see Dunlop, Gerha, and then of course the Michael Schumacher S's, which are literally right in front of us at this particular moment in time. So Nathan Thomas closing on Lukas Romanek, and this is the battle for what is now going to be P5, because Daniel Ginchard, I think, has just been passed in the pits. But look, Thomas trying to go up the inside of the Audi of Romanek, makes the move, stick, going through the exit of the Mercedes arena. But now it's one thing to be the hunter, it's another thing altogether, Nico, to become the hunted.
Yeah, that's definitely true. And I think the Audi around here at the moment, I mentioned it a couple times already on earlier broadcasts, but for those who weren't there, again, as one of the last couple of physics patches for this, Kunos actually recalculated the aerodynamics, and that actually very nicely benefited the Audi, because Audi drivers can now run a little bit less rear wing. And honestly, Mr. Romanek here in 6th place, this is precisely what he's going to want, compared to the Porsche, which is overall a car which also has to run a lot of downforce and also can adjust the downforce a little bit more. But on straight line speed, the Audi, as we saw earlier a few times already, should be better now. And even then, Romanek is now in a prime time spot to just maybe save a little bit of fuel, to just get pulled along Nathaniel Thomas, because the Porsche is, of course, due to rear engine, due to more traction on the rear, a car that's better out of the corners, so now he can just catch up a little bit better with less effort put on the engine.
Yep, we've got our 7th penalty of the evening now handed out. I am taking a running log of these. A 10-second penalty for Kirsten Abaya in the number 19 for not observing blue flags. So I did say that the drivers would have to watch it in terms of the back marker side of things. So Abaya gets a penalty, a 10-second penalty. That will be... So Abaya will have another 10 seconds to serve in the pit box before any tyres or any fuel can be put into that vehicle. Well, we're just about 20 seconds away from the halfway stage. We're going to go to a commercial break here on World Pro Racing. We'll be back with you for continuing coverage of the all-German 2-hour race here on World Pro Racing. Back in a few moments.
We are at the halfway mark, still a long way to go. This stream is powered by Melita, using Melita Gigapower Internet.
wish your Wi-Fi network would just work in any room? Our new Stellar Wi-Fi is AI assisted to give you the smoothest, fastest possible Wi-Fi throughout your home. Stellar Wi-Fi, assisted by AI, exclusive to Melita. Find out more in-store or online.
Back here for the second half, what remains of the second half of the all-German 2-hour casual race, here live and uninterrupted on World Pro Racing with Alex Goldschmidt and Nico Hellbrand taking you through the action. And Nico, we're starting to see a few more drivers now coming into the pits. Kirsten Ebaya has in the pits and will have that 10-second penalty before the work going onto the car. I think even some drivers still having moments with regards to stop-go 30s. I've just seen that Andrea Rizzo in the number 80 Audi has just had a stop-go 30. So some drivers not having it all their own way tonight.
Yeah, definitely not. But it's just overall so tricky to get the timing absolutely perfectly right every time. And of course, you have these 3 mandatory pit stops. You want to race, it's 3 hours, and this 30-minute rhythm, it's of course a little bit difficult, because you're just getting into the rhythm of racing, of getting properly into the groove on the track, of feeling the car properly, and then you're realizing, oh, well, shoot, now the fuel is empty, I have to go refuel, and then you just go a little bit too fast into the corner, or you release the limiter a little bit too early, and it's instantly stop and go 30 seconds, which of course doesn't help your problem, and at that point it just builds up with stress, and if you don't have it properly under control, then, your next penalty isn't that far away. Meanwhile, though, a little bit of stress maybe between these two teammates here, Marcus Ludwood and Alex Johnston, coming around the last corner, and both of them already with only 1 stop to go. Of course, they're quite a bit still away from Ginchard and from Whitehead, but either way, those two are battling with knife between their teeth against each other as they also now go through lap traffic.
effectively the motorsport equivalent of Rambo with the knife through the teeth, you know, trying to get everyone out of the way and everything like that. But yeah, I think, you know, this is effectively what is for de facto third position, because Whitehead currently in second place is behind Patel, who's still got another 2 pit stops to make. Then you look at Ryan Renoir. So there you see on your screens, Patel leads from Whitehead. Renoir, Ginchard, Saristo, Littlewood, Johnson, Foch, Boychev and Thomas ran at the top 10 positions. But you can now, there was a little bit of a moment there, I think, through the forward curve from Marcus Littlewood, and that nearly gave Alex Johnston the opportunity he needed. Little touch from behind by Johnston, just let Littlewood know, look mate, we might be teammates. I'm not going to take you out, but I'm definitely going to make sure you know I am there. And I'm sure that Marcus Littlewood will be 100% aware of that, because he's got the same coloured Porsche of his teammate in his rearview mirror, as now they go into the left-hander. A bit more curve taken there by Johnston into the next right, and you can see that that is Saristo just up ahead. So Saristo looking to do a longer second stint, as you can just see how close this trio are. And Johnston's got a really good run. He's trying to go towards the outside of Littlewood here, and that is into the NGK chicane. They literally rumble their way over the strips, and Johnston looking to send it around the outside, cuts back to take a tighter line through the Hyundai N corner, and gets a really good run on his teammate in the number 12 Porsche. Saristo, this trio covered by less than 9/10 of a second into the Haughaken. Johnston looking to get the advantage in the run on Littlewood. It depends on how if there's an imbalance on Littlewood's car, or if he has a little bit of a mistake or a slight outbreak. The moment he makes a mistake, but he just doesn't want to compromise either his teammate or also the person behind in front, because Saristo now is feeling the heat. Johnston right on the back bumper of Littlewood. Oh my goodness me. This is a powder keg here, Nico, waiting to explode at a second's notice.
Because now he's not quite close enough to send it down the inside there. But of course, they don't want to take each other out, but the tension is bubbling. They're lucky just now that Foch right behind them lost a bit of time in the last sector. But either way, with that battling, they're going to lose a lot of time. And of course, they're so close together. One wrong step and they will lose even more.
Yeah, you can cut that tension like a hot knife through butter. So they've just literally fired their way through the Michael Schumacher. It says Littlewood up the inside. Oh, tags into Saristo. They both run wide. So Johnson gets a little bit of a hand-me-down courtesy of Littlewood, but now he senses a little bit of blood in the water there. Saristo might not be 100% happy with that, but that was a little bit of a touch. It wasn't, I don't think it was intentional from Littlewood, but obviously when the adrenaline is really high in this kind of race, even though it is a casual race, the red mist, as we all know, does come down, and the drivers can be incensed about even the slightest little bit of contact possible. But Marcus Littlewood still holding on ahead of Alex Johnston as the two Omega E Racing teammates battle away for position.
Yeah, as you said, a bit of a touch there. I think Saristo is not going to be a big fan of that. Of course, I don't think it was intentional, but either way, a bit too optimistic of a move, and that could get a slap on the wrist by one of our stewards, or by both of them actually, if they're just completely in perfect unison on that one. Because it did look quite a bit like an aggressive move, so we have to keep a look on that. Because of course, 5-second penalty, or even 10-second, or maybe drive-through, that could most definitely lose them some spaces, or at least, in this case, Marcus Littlewood.
Yeah, very much the case, as they've now come out of the Ford car into the Dunlop car, the right-hand hairpin. They've got one of the Porsches, that looks to be Lucas Ziga, I think, in front in the number 5, which I've just had confirmed by seeing his number board. And you can see the drone shot here by Nathan once again. We're now just behind Alex Johnston through the Michael Schumacher S's up towards the next left-hander. And Ziga lets them both out of the way. Johnston still hanging on for the moment. And into the Biakova. And then the run down to Advan, as you can see how close we're getting to the number 12 of Marcus Littlewood. Through into Advan. Johnston's right in the slipstream. Oh my goodness, down towards the NGK chicane. He's looking towards the outside of the corner to get the inside run, but he gets a little bit, I think he got a little bit track cut happy there, but not through completely his own fault. I think he was trying to go for that window of opportunity that Marcus Littlewood saw and quickly shut the door. Hot dinners tonight, as we're going through into the last 45 minutes of the race. There's Enzi Isny in the I'm going to use the correct pronunciation, and I'm sure this will be pleasing to Nico's ears. HWA Race Lab, not HWA as it's known in the United Kingdom.
Yeah, definitely.
Who also not just are active in GT3s, but they're also active in FIA Formula 2 and Formula 3. Looks like we're getting a message now from George, our race steward, as there are it is going to be a case that it won't just be messages from Adrian Figaro. We'll also get them from George Muscat as well. So if one of them has picked up an incident, they may tell us what is going on. But no, he was saying no, there are no incidents at the moment. So everyone's keeping themselves rather clean and tidy. T's are being crossed, I's are being dotted, as now Marcus Littlewood is trying to close up, and that is on the number 11 BMW of Gergely Kunsabo. And you can see as soon as Johnston gets the sniff, he's there or thereabouts. Says, oh, that's side by side and a half between the pair of these Porsches.
That was a touch.
Yeah, and that just unsettled Littlewood, and Johnston got the run on him. And you can see that the front fog lights on that Porsche now very much ablaze. We go on board with the number 12 from Great Britain in the Omega E Racing Team number 12, with his teammate Alex Johnston just up ahead. Now, I'm just keeping my eyes a little bit further up on the what's been happening. Now, Luke Whitehead still leads Nico by 3.187 seconds ahead of Vishal Patel. Then Ryan Renoir rounds out the top three. They've still got a couple of pits. They've got an additional pit stop to make. So that will put Ginchard into second and Johnston up into third. But Littlewood is only 7.5 tenths of a second behind. You can just see how much input Marcus Littlewood is putting in behind the wheel of this Porsche. And just had oh my goodness me, Marcus Littlewood now gets hit with a 5-second time penalty, courtesy of Race Control, and that was for the move on Saristo. So Race Control were looking with their hawk eyes, and Marcus Littlewood will have an additional 5 seconds in the pits for the next time. So you can see that they have got a multitude of screens there at World Pro Racing. So our stewarding crew is always doing a very, very exemplary job. And if you do want to find out anything about stewarding, whether you want to learn how to become a race steward, you can head to, if you're watching on the YouTube channel, funnily enough, and if you haven't liked and subscribed and hit the notification bell, why not? We want you to enjoy the racing as much as myself and Nico calling the shots this evening, and obviously through all the relevant programming that we got in the next few weeks. You can head to the YouTube channel and have a look through our uploaded videos and check out what it takes to become a steward, how you can get involved, and also if you want to race, head to worldproracing.com to register with us here, and we would love to have anyone from any kind of skill set to jump on board and give it their best here, with all our events being live streamed via multiple different platforms, including YouTube, Twitch, Facebook Live, also TVM Sports in Malta, motorsport.tv, esports TV, and also for the third round of the World Pro Racing Assetto Corsa Competizione Sprint Series, we are also being broadcasted on the race. So 41 minutes and 38 seconds still to go. Luke Whitehead has literally, as they say, Nico, if you're not talking much about the leader, he's doing a pretty good job.
Yeah, most definitely so. He's just been gaining and gaining and gaining consistently throughout the entire race. There was a moment at the start when he was within the range of Littlewood and Ginchard, but that moment has passed for now. So it all just depends on how he will do his final bit of strategy. So, unless, of course, Ginchard is basically running on a full tank right now and just wants to put in 1 liter, and Whitehead wants to then put in, for example, for full 30 minutes, some fuel again, and also new tires, then Ginchard would still have a chance to make it past him. But other than that, I think as long as Whitehead doesn't put a foot wrong now, he has driven the perfect race.
Okay, we're now going to head back down to the stewards' room. We're going to have a chat with both Adrian Figallo and also George Muscat as well. So if we can, we'll head down there now as we're on to lap 41 of this race. Adrian, I know it's been a busy time for you and George. Another penalty handed out, this time to Marcus Littlewood. It just goes to show how finite the different details, the different factors between deciding whether an incident is a racing incident or whether there is a justifiable penalty that's being handed out.
Yeah, sure. You need to look into all the details, obviously, and of the move, how it happened. Some of the incidents are passed then as race incidents, but obviously enough, we go on board inside the car, see obviously enough if they let off the throttle, we go to a lot of detail, especially in some incidents which are literally on a fine line to have a decision on.
And obviously, yeah, like you say, going on board, obviously having replays and stuff like that, that really does help you from both aspects, from an onboard from the rear of a driver's car to the onboard from a driver's steering input, and through Assetto Corsa Competizione you can see what the braking and the throttle inputs are like once they're making a specific move.
Exactly. The replay and all, obviously, these possibilities to have a look at, as you said, throttle, brakes and stuff. In ACC, it does help us a lot to obviously enough to come to the right decisions, because after all, that's why we are here, to give the right decisions and obviously enough give the drivers their way, especially those drivers that have suffered an incident. And we noticed that most of the drivers that have been racing with us through the years have improved and learned a lot, and obviously enough, you can have people that actually do tell you and obviously why I was not at fault, but then when you go into the detail and explain what happened, they do accept obviously the decisions taken by us here at Race Direction.
And also, Adrian, final question obviously before I head over to George. How can they apply and ask to become a steward? How can they learn the ropes and get involved?
It's actually, they can get in touch with us or through email or through our social media or even through Discord. They can talk to me or my colleagues, and we'll get them in, we'll explain to them, we'll put them with us, looking at the races with us actually, and showing them this is decisions taken and why we reached those decisions. Obviously enough, it all comes then by experience, looking into further detail to come to the right decisions at the end.
Yeah, and also just one final thing. You've done a lot of work in Italy, I understand as well, from a real life perspective, through drifting, through other forms of circuit racing and other forms of motorsport. How long have you been involved as a steward and also a race director through your relevant exploits, Adrian?
Actually, my involvement in motorsport now has been there for the last 10 years. In the last 4 years, or actually 5, I've been obviously went into more deeply into general motorsport. I've been shadowing in races in Italy. I've been a judge for drifting in Italy. And obviously enough, I've been a steward and even clerk of the course here for various racing, being it karting, hill climbs, etc., even locally.
Well, Adrian, thank you very much for your time. I'll leave you to get on with things if I can. Let's head over to our race steward working alongside Adrian Figallo. George, can you hear me?
Yes, hello.
Obviously, you're in constant communication with Adrian the whole time. What's the sort of like so if you spot an incident, let's hypothetically speaking, let's see that you spot an incident and you instantly say, right, okay, here's the index of it, here's what I've seen, what has happened, can you cast an eye over it and make a decision? And you guys are constantly in communication through multiple different platforms. Obviously, you guys are using a radio system as well, just like a clerk of the course and the main race steward would do. How involved is your role alongside Adrian? I know it's a long question.
What we do, we with the help of even Nathan, we are logging the incidents. We see which sector, where the accident, which car collided with the other car, or what type of incident was, and then obviously we're logging in. We keep the logs, and then we pass them to Adrian for reviewing.
Mm-hmm. And how long have you been involved in motorsport, George?
Basically, I started with Adrian. We've been together since these last 10 years. I am involving even then in racing directly. I do drifting here in Malta. I race in drifting, and obviously I was even the president for Malta Drifting Association here. And then I am involved in stewarding with the Malta Motorsports Federation here for the local motorsports. We did even some events in Italy for shadowing, like Lamborghini Super Trofeo, and others like hill climbs. And obviously we assist and help and do shadowing and do stewarding in the hill climb and local events. Motorsports events here in Malta.
Well, George, I'll let you get back to it as well. Thank you very much, as always, for your fantastic efforts, and all the very best of the rest of the evening for both yourself and Adrian.
Thank you.
Well, there you go. A bit more of an insight in what actually happens here at World Pro Racing, but also the real-life application we have here. And to me, as a commentator, that really does scream volumes. Now, as you can see, drivers are now getting towards the tail end of this race. Nico, we're just 34 minutes away from concluding what has been a rather interesting and dynamic 2-hour all-German casual race, but the track temperature has really got the cars on song at the moment. We've now gone up by 4 degrees to a track temperature here at the Nürburgring of 22 degrees Celsius.
Yeah, and at this point, it's going to be a bit more difficult now for people who are still on their start tires, if there are any, because, of course, you can't adjust the pressure when you're not changing your tires. And at this point, this is already, how do you say it best? This is already the point when tire pressures are going to be affected by the higher temperatures. So, in this case, I think you would have overpressured tires, and that is not a quite nice experience. Especially over curbs, you run the risk of getting a slow puncture, because over curbs, when the tires just have a bit too much resistance, they can just get damaged quicker as well. And also heat themselves up even more, which leads to even more probability of punctures, but also tire tearing and also graining, of course.
Especially with the fact of the sideways lateral movement of the tire walls are having to sort of literally be tortured through, as we see Luke Whitehead making his way through back marker traffic. He's got a 15.7 second lead over Belgium's Ryan Runhois in the 732 Porsche. You can see now Whitehead just sort of flashing to the Audi in front to say, just effectively say, please just move out of the way. I need to get past your back marker. And he's completely within his rights to do that. And then that is the number 71 Audi that he's just got past going through the exit of the NGK chicane through the Hyundai N-Carver. And we'll cross the line to complete 45 laps at this particular moment in time. And in terms of the mileage that we have covered so far, that is 144 miles in this race. Ryan Hunua still has 2 pit stops to make. But interestingly enough, Nico, we are seeing a bit of green lights on the timing board on the left-hand side of our screens. Alex Johnston, Daniel Ginchard, 8th and 10th respectively, both have served all 3 mandatory pit stops.
Yeah, and overall, I think that actually puts Alex Johnston now in net 2nd place, because something must have happened to Daniel Ginchard, because he was ahead of both of those Omega Esports Porsches, and that's not quite how he probably imagined this race to go. And it's quite a sizable gap at that. It's 18 seconds, so something must have happened to him.
Yeah, I'm just going to actually have a look. Now, it's at the moment there's no sort of real notification. I haven't seen anything as such on that on the YouTube chat. However, there is a generic channel, I believe, and there's no. I'm just wondering whether he might have there is a possibility, and this has happened before, where drivers have slightly overfueled by mistake, but then sometimes you might want to have that overfuel just to be on the safe side, because there could be drivers, Nico, that may have underfueled and might have to do a bit of fuel saving towards the end of the race.
Yeah, that is going to lose you more time than just overfueling a bit. Quite honestly, due to, in quotation marks, traumatic experiences from my beginning time in sim racing, I tend to overfuel, but that's still way better than listening to your engine slowly die of lack of fuel, so, just 1 or 2 laps before the end. So, yeah, that's Nate Thomas now in the pit lane, getting going, and that was his final pit stop as well.
Yeah, so 4 of the top 10 have now pitted for the final time, and there is the. Well, that was Neuwirth in the 63 Audi also making his final stop. And that was nearly an unsafe release, but luckily enough, Volodya now is in the pits for the final time, the number 7 Mercedes, currently running in P12 at the moment. So the timing tower, as there is Marcus Littlewood in for his final pit stop, but a 5-second penalty has to be served first. You can now see that's gone. And now the pit stop is engaged. And one of the good things about this is that you can, Nico, if I remember correctly, on Assetto Corsa Competizione, you can have fuel and tyres going on and in at the very same time.
Yes, indeed. The only problem with that is, of course, that the tyre change will cost 30 seconds, which is quite a big strategic gamble. And honestly, looking at the gap between Ginchard and Johnston, I think that is exactly the reason why Johnston got past Ginchard, because I think Ginchard might have put on a new set of tyres, while Johnston didn't.
So the full contact patches on Daniel Ginchard's car might be a little bit more lively, let's say, towards the last sort of 10 to 15 minutes of this race, because, you know, Renoir has yet to have a second pit stop. Foch has yet to have a second pit stop. Whitehead's still got one to do, and he is actually in the pits, as I said that, on lap number 48. So Whitehead looking to get the. Now the thing is that he's got 2 pit stops in hand because of the fact he's already done all 3. So Renoir and Foch will be the 2 drivers that really might be doing that last gasp strategic call of splash and dash, and there is Whitehead at the moment. So Renoir will effectively take the lead. and I've just seen that. Oh, hang on! I've just had a notification that someone is currently under investigation. That could
That's
be
Littlewood.
Well, it's saying 12, but then I just want to wait for official confirmation. There isn't an under investigation. It's got Littlewood on there, but there is somebody under okay. Sorry, hang on a second.
Unrelated then.
Something completely unrelated.
Yes. Got us in panic for a second there.
Yeah. Thank goodness for that. But to be honest with you now, Luke Whitehead, all he needs to do is put that Audi into cruise mode. He's not put a foot wrong. You know, P3 after the 90-minute multi-class of the Nürburgring, where he felt he could have taken the victory. He had a really, really good run last night at the World Pro Racing Assetto Corsa Competizione Sprint Series. Now, I've just had a notification. Abel and Kun Sabo, 71 and 11, are apparently under investigation. Race Control are just messaging us at the moment. Oh, Gergely Kun Sabo, and that was one of the Porsches. That was the number 5 of Luca Ziga that went literally, they straight lined the NGK chicane there. That was not cricket, as we'd say here in the UK. That was definitely, I don't know what happened there, but I think they've just outbraked themselves going into the braking zone for the chicane there, Nico. And like I said, it's now getting to the final quarter of the race. The drivers, they are physically and mentally tired, but the adrenaline is still what is pushing them on. And I fear that drive-through penalties could happen if they get track cuts. And that was nearly a track cut for Gergely Kun Sabo going through the Mercedes arena.
I think it's this mixture between being tired, trying to relax a little bit, because if you're in a comfortable spot, of course you're going to relax. But of course, when you're Gergely Kun Sabo, for example, I think he's quite a fighter, He really wants to, he always wants to do well. Especially in this BMW here, which is, a straight line monster. And quite honestly, I can't imagine him actually settling down. So we have this mixture of people relaxing and this mixture of people now going, right, this is the final sprint, let's go. But
and as you say that, we have had our 10th penalty of the night awarded with around 25 minutes to go. And it's Abel in the number 71 that has just received a 5-second penalty that will be added post-race, because Abel has now served his final pit stop. A 5-second penalty to the number 71 for an aggressive move, cutting the corner, and gaining a position on Gergely Kun Sabo, and not doing the sportsmanlike thing and giving the position back. So yeah. Somebody is now going to find themselves into 20th position, and that is the number 19. That's the number 71 that we got in 19th place at the moment, Ascor Abel in the Audi. So again, that's another mistake that people just want to avoid. And when you look at how many people now that have got pit stops still to make, Saristo, Norton, Seth, Boychev, Cox, Yaziunas, Ziga, Afonseca, Rizzo, they've all got their final pit stop to make. But then what I'm more interested in now, Nico, is what's happening at the top of the timesheets, because with the fact that Whitehead has got basically he's got green on his timing, you can see there that Renoir and Foch have now got an opportunity to try and do the unthinkable. But when you look at it, Foch is 38.9 seconds behind Renoir. So Renoir's got the jump on the Austrian, and that could be rather a good way to capitalise. So if Renoir blinks first, Foch is then going to have to respond. Whitehead will be there like Piggy in the middle and waiting for his opportunity. And once they do their final pit stop, Whitehead will just go, you know what, I'm going to laugh all the way to the virtual bank tonight, boys.
I'm going to be honest, there is a possibility which is very unlikely, but as people like to say on Twitch, it would be the Giga Brain move. In the case of Renoir, if he came in for 2 just very short, very, very short splash and dashes, which he isn't in right now yet, but there's another Porsche, fittingly, as we see with our amazing drone cams. If Renoir just came in very, very quickly for a short amount of time, I think the pit lane at the Nürburgring is short enough that he could still have a fighting chance. There we are now with Renoir. That he could have a fighting chance against Luke Whitehead, because if he just refuels 1 or 2 liters right now and still has enough in the tank and doesn't change tires, I think then he could definitely try to go for this, how do you say it, like last-ditch effort to actually fight for the overall win.
Yeah, so he's now in the pits. 2 Porsches nearly come together. That was Ashton Cox coming out of the pits. And Renoir, that is going to be a rather quick pit stop. He's been in there for just over 15, make that 20 seconds. And he's just come out of the pits, hasn't he? He was in there from, he's out of the pits. That pit stop, Nico, was about 22 seconds.
That is quite strange. So
I don't think he's
maybe
taken
damage repair?
No. I don't think he's taken tyres. Maybe he's doing that last gasp effort, as you said. Because the thing is, if he did repair damage, he wants that car to be absolutely fighting fit, because you see now the gap between him and Luke Whitehead. Okay, we're on lap 51 of this race. We've got 20 and a half minutes to go. Whitehead is 35 seconds behind. Now, all Renoir has to do is to trundle down the pit lane, put in a minimal amount of fuel, maybe be in that pit stop box for around 10 seconds, and he could, well, you now see that Renoir is actually behind, so it will be a Samuel Foch that will be the next one that will have to make that decision. So I think Renoir might have an opportunity at the podium. Possibly.
He definitely has an opportunity at the podium, but basically he stood for quite some time, so I think he might have gotten new tires, maybe, or damage repair, or, well, if both of those cases don't quite cut it, maybe even if he was very unlucky, the wrong pit stop, Matt, because of course you can make presets in your setup menu for pit stops. If he was maybe just slipping onto the wrong pit stop preset, that would of course be very, very frustrating indeed.
Yeah. Now, we're on board with him at the moment. His outlet was a 2-minute 33.9. So let's just stay on board with the number 732 from Belgium. He's 3.7 seconds behind Luke Whitehead, who is about to get past Samuel Foch for the lead on lap 52. And I think if Renoir's got those tyres up to temp, I'm wondering, I don't think he's changed tyres. I think he's probably done that maybe on his first stint to get some real, because he was in that car for a very long time on that first stint, wasn't he?
Yeah, that is the thing. He did make a very, very long first stint. Then comes in after a quite long second stint as well, when you consider that he had 2 pit stops to go. Now we have Luke Whitehead getting past Foch now. So Foch with 2 pit stops still left in a quite comfortable position. So I think he's actually trying to do the strategy. He's trying to do the Giga Brain of only 1 liter per fuel stop maybe. Because that's all it takes. You just have to quickly shut off the car, 1 liter gets refueled. That is a thing of around a second. Then you just get the car going again immediately. That's what I thought Renault was trying to pull maybe, but evidently he wasn't. So I think he's right now just trying to, come to terms with maybe a 3rd place. Because Littlewood is just so far behind Alex Johnson right now.
Yeah. And you can now see that we're actually in not too far off of the official BMW M-Powered Tribune. I remember visiting the circuit actually It was just it was part of a 2,500 kilometer road trip that took me from my home here in southeast England down to Zolder. Well, I first stopped in Brussels on the first night, then went to Zolder, Spa-Francorchamps, then I came to the Nürburgring, and then ended up at Meckesheim, which is like half an hour outside of Hockenheim. Here's Vishal Patel from PC Boys Racing, number 295, now coming in for his final pit stop with just under 17 minutes on the clock remaining. We'll just keep with him for a few moments and just see how long this pit stop is going to take. And we're close to getting into double figures already. Track temperature still at 23 degrees Celsius. Okay, the car's now gone onto the floor. That's 15 seconds in the pits. No new tyres for Vishal Patel. And that is his final pit stop of the race. So, and you can now see that Renoir has definitely got that 732 Porsche 911 GT3R firing on all 6 cylinders. And he's only 1.2 seconds. Look just up ahead of him. Semir Foch in the BMW. And that is going through into the left-hander for the right at Bierkova for the run down to Advan. So you can now see this is one of the other drone shots you can see as they're going into the Haugaken, and then you can see the Mercedes AMG Tribune on the left-hand side. This is the Mercedes Arena they're going through at the moment. There's Renoir. He's hustling that Porsche. He can see that Foch has definitely gone for the extra long game. Has done 1 pit stop in 1 hour and 45 minutes and still has another 2 to go. Renoir fancies an opportunity that if he can get past Foch, he might have a chance to try and close the gap up to Whitehead, but he'll have to pit stop for the final time, do the splash and dash, and still keep ahead of Foch. And I think that's Foch's opportunity of a podium quite well and truly blown there.
Yeah, I would say so as well, but overall, I still think our call for Foch to be a dark horse of the race wasn't wrong, because he started outside the top 10, and with everything proceeding to his plan, he should still be in a very, very comfortable, maybe even top 5 spot, to be honest.
Yeah, I would think so. You know, you see, I mean, it's been a different race for some of the drivers. You know, Marcus Littlewood, Alex Johnston. Johnston is on track for a net 2nd position, the runner-up spot behind Luke Whitehead, who's now on lap number 54. We've got 14 minutes and 20 seconds still to go of the race, and they're running in the in sort of like the 150-53s or so. But you can see that Ryan Renoir using that that Porsche to the absolute maximum. Foch still is trying to keep ahead and is about 1.1 seconds in front, but runs a little bit wide coming out of the Bierkova, then keeps it planted going through Advan into the NGK chicane. You can hear the pops and bangs from the M-Power twin turbo 4.4 litre V8 on this M6. It's been it's been one of those GT3 stalwarts. BMW have used that for quite a long time. It's been raced by quite a few people, including Alex Zanardi, who has also raced in this particular car. The predecessor to this car was the Z4, which, if I remember correctly, Bruno Spengler, Timo Glock, and Alex Zanardi piloted at the Total 24 Hours of Spa, and they were going for a top 10 finish until the engine seized with an hour left in the race. That's how heartbreak can really, really hurt you with a mechanical failure so catastrophic in such a prestigious endurance race.
Yeah, and that's just sometimes. Well, how do you say it in German? Wie der Hase läuft. I'd say the English equivalent is how the cookie crumbles.
Exactly.
In this case, the engine crumbles, but luckily we don't have to worry about things like that right now. We have Nate Thomas here with an 11th place running right now, but right in front of him is Chef in his BMW. Still has to do a pit stop, so Nate Thomas looking at a top 10 finish at the moment, while he's being followed by a big marker.
That's Gergely Kunstabo in the number 11. Very nondescript matte red and black BMW M6 GT3. And then I think that's Yezny in the 77 Havet R Race Lab car. Vaziunas now pits for the final time with 12 minutes on the clock remaining. But the biggest question that I think everyone at home that is watching at the minute, when is Samir Foch going to do his last 2 pit stops? Because he's being closed in on. The gap between Foch and Whitehead has now expanded to over 11 seconds. And there is the leader at the moment on lap number 56, 404 H3 Racing Audi R8 LMS GT3 Evo. As Foch now pits on lap number 56, that now unleashes Hunwa. But Hunwa will then have to counter-attack and serve his final pit stop. And I would say maybe, Nico, he's got to do that on the next lap or two to just facilitate what happens, as there is Foch trying to get into his pit box. I'm going to put the stopwatch on now.
Oh, that's actually, considering everything, that is still quite a long pit stop. Ah, but there we are.
Yeah, that was 10. That was over 10 seconds in the pit. So, yeah, that was about 15 to 17 seconds from stopping in the box and then getting out on track. So, yeah, Samir Foch might have just cut it a bit close.
I think this is also another thing here that a lot of people actually not forget, but they don't really consider it quite that difficult. But in this, you actually have to stop pretty dead on for your pit stop, because if you just stop in the perfect place, your crew puts you up on the jacks immediately, begin service. If you stop a little bit too far away, if you stop a little bit too far forward, first of all, your engine has to be off, then they will start pushing your car, and then they will put you on the jacks. Maybe, as I saw that Foch's car actually got moved back, I think he lost quite a bit of time there, with the crew actually just taking their sweet time and still waiting before they actually put him up on the jacks, which is, of course, always the most infuriating thing when you're trying to compete for a good position overall.
So we're going to find out what is going to happen with the final pit stops for Hunwa. Foch has now dropped outside of the top 5. Seth now up into 9th place. Boychev in 12th. As Thomas is closing. That is on Oscar Saristo for position. As we go on board with the number 70. Omega E-Racing Team Porsche. Big thank you to both Justin and Nathan for the fantastic work they've done this evening. And that was brazen. That was brazen from Nathan Thomas, and Saristo knew it was coming, and he decided, yep, I'm going to make the rear end of this BMW as wide as humanly possible. And the key point here is, ladies and gentlemen, looking at this at the moment, Samir Foch is 11.6 seconds behind Daniel Ginchard with 8 minutes and 23 seconds still left to go. I'm not too sure about that top 5. I think that Hunwa will more than likely get a top 5, because you look at between him and Johnston and Littlewood and Ginchard. Hunwa, I think, will be at the bottom part of the top 5. I think Samir Foch will be just outside the top 5, maybe 6th or 7th position by an approximation, as Nathan Thomas goes siding up the inside of Oscar Saristo for position into the Hulk-Haken, but the BMW gets the run into the Mercedes arena. The Finn keeps it planted towards the outside of the Brit, but Thomas makes it through up into P10, and that could possibly be as high as 8th position come the checkered flag.
Quite a nice move and quite a nice dynamic there. Well, Nate Thomas, honestly, there was plates very, very well. Just went perfectly for the over and under, and just perfectly placed himself to the inside of turn 2. And of course, it's quite easy to say, you just want to go down the inside for turn 1, but the difficult part there is, to actually get the perfect run into turn 2 as well. Simply because it's such a long corner, you just always have to watch your exit there. Especially for turn 3, you can actually attack from that as well. But yeah, as you said about Samir Foch, I think he's out of contention for the top 5, but the top 10 is probably still in. And as it looks, honestly, he's one of the newer drivers here as well, and I think that's still a very decent showing from him today, especially considering he's in one of the lesser picked cars in the seas of Porsche.
Yes, very much the case. So 6.5 minutes still to go here at what's been a rather action-packed and dramatic 2-hour casual race here on World Pro Racing. The all-German casual races. There is our race leader now on lap number 58. So we're going to hit north of 60 laps by the end of this race. Don't forget to join us on worldproracing.com for any weekly casual races, special events, championships on PC and PS4 throughout the year, endurance racing in the pipeline here on World Pro Racing. And I would say, well, Luke Whitehead crosses the stripe with just 6 minutes on the clock to go. Puts us on to lap number 59, and he's been running in the 1:54.5s. So I would say we've got another 4 laps to go. So we should conclude this race with a total of 63 laps of this 3.19, well, I'm going to round it up, 3.2 mile circuit. That will be just north of 201.5 miles. There's Oscar Saristo now trying to, he's got Boychev alongside. So Boychev trying an opportunity in the Porsche. You've then got Kirsten Abaya just behind, going sideways going Stuttgart sideways in their Porsche, as we're on board with Boychev in the number 64 Porsche, closing on Saristo. This is the battle for P11. This could actually be for just at the bottom part of the top 10, but Boychev will not factor into the top 10 because of the main crux here, Nico, that Boychev still has a pit stop to make, and we're into the last 5 minutes.
Yeah, and I think right now he's just trying to have some fun, honestly. He has a quite decent gap to the cars behind, that actually are for position behind. So I think right now he sees good chances of himself getting past that BMW. But look at this now, look at the gap now. The BMW is just creeping away ever so slightly, and that is just the power of that twin-turbo V8 M-Power engine.
Yeah, against the 3.8 litre turbo. Oh, tag from behind the race steward. Oh, that was a double tap. That was a double tap from Boychev on Saristo. There was one tap and then there was another. And you know what? I must be completely honest here. Thank goodness Luke Whitehead was further away from that, as now Saristo will be at the... You know when they say that you don't hear... Well, sometimes some of the Finnish contingent can be very quiet. I mean, take, for instance, Kimi Räikkönen. He lets his racing on the track do the talking. Saristo, I'm sure, will be fired up, but race control will definitely be investigating that incident, because that was a move that didn't really need to happen, as Renoir pits from P3.
Yeah, overall, when you want to battle in the end stage of the race, that's all fine and good, but as you said, considering the situation, and especially considering that Boychev still has to pit, that was rather unnecessary overall. And yeah, that is quite a difficult situation, of course. I'm sure that Adrian Vigaio and George Muscat are looking at that incident with lustful eyes, waiting to get another penalty out. But yeah, at the end, the one suffering the most from that is Oscar Saristo.
Yeah, and as you said that, investigation on numbers 9 and 64. I think Boychev's got a penalty coming, because Adrian Figallo, our race director, is... you can just see how quick they are. Our race director, Adrian Figallo, and also George Muscat, our race steward, that's how quick they are responding. And you heard earlier on when I was discussing with both Adrian and George how much communication is going on. It's basically like, if anyone know the most famous race director, apart from the likes of the late Charlie Whiting, Eduardo Freitas from Portugal. He does the World Endurance Championship and also the European Le Mans Series. He is this is how you now see why we brought the professional edge to the race stewarding here at World Pro Racing. We want to make sure it is as true to real life as humanly possible, and I have to commend both George and Adrian for the fantastic job that they do here at World Pro Racing every single time the drivers go into competition. We've got a yellow flag out at the moment, and you can see that now. Oh, drive-through penalty. I knew it was coming. Boychev gets the drive-through, and that scuppers his... Oh, you know what? Nico, just remind me, if you don't serve a pit stop on Assetto Corsa Competizione, it's an automatic penalty. Isn't it 130 seconds post-race?
I think it might actually be worse than that. I think it was 130 seconds if you don't have all of your drivers drive. If you don't have all mandatory pit stops served, you might even end up with a disqualification.
Oh, so yes. That is our 4th drive-through awarded. That puts us on 11 penalties for tonight. So 3 SP stop-go 30s, 4 drive-throughs, 3 5-second penalties. We've had a 10-second penalty awarded as we head into the last 50 seconds of this race here on World Pro Racing. Big thank you to you all for joining us and tuning in. Luke Whitehead is going to come across the line very shortly in the next 20 or so seconds, if that, which will put him onto the final lap of the race into the NGK Chicana for what will be the penultimate time. Luke Whitehead has done an absolutely superlative job, not put a foot wrong, and we are now seeing that the green flags are being waved.
Right, man. Leader is on the final lap.
Leader's on the final lap, as you can just hear. And also a real nice message here from Adrian Figallo. He had the honour of meeting the late Charlie Whiting and also sitting and discussing with Eduardo Freitas during the FIA Stewards Yearly meeting. That just shows what characters are in the paddocks across the world. The timer, it strikes 0 here for the final race event of January 2021 here on World Pro Racing. And there is Alex Johnson. He's 20.1 seconds away from Luke Whitehead, who is on the 62nd and final lap here at the Nürburgring. And that will put us just shy of... that will put us just literally 1.6 miles away from 200 miles completed. And in terms of the kilometers, that's basically 320 kilometers that we've covered tonight here on the all-German 2-hour casual race.
No, that's quite decent.
That is quite a statistic, isn't it, at the end of the day? We've also got the 912 Porsche, I think, Afonseca on the side track, on the side of the track. But Luke Whitehead, very shortly, you can see the green flag being waved, and on the start-finish straight, very shortly, we will see the checkered.
Actually, there's a Porsche parked right next to the box there, waiting for the finish, and there we are.
Luke Whitehead wins after 62 laps, nearly 200 miles of racing, taking the victory here in the final race of January 2021 here on World Pro Racing. Alex Johnston started P4 on the inside and the outside of row 2 alongside Dan Ginchard. He takes second position at the flag for Omega E Racing Team, and it's a 2-3 for the team, courtesy of Marcus Littlewood. And Littlewood now will, there's been another penalty. This time it's a 15-second time penalty for the 912 of Afonseca for stopping in a dangerous position, actually on the racing line. So Littlewood takes third. Dan Ginchard 2.4 seconds away from a possible podium as Luke Whitehead has just done the celebratory donuts off of the Hulk Haken. Vishal Patel will take 5th place very shortly. And it is a 130-second penalty for Boychev there. And there is our podium. Saristo will effectively end up 10th ahead of Volodya, Seth Norton. So Patel takes 5th, Hunwar takes 6th. David Ohak will take 7th. Samir Foch will take 8th place ahead of Nathan Thomas. But there is your race victor after 2 hours here at the Nürburgring. 320 kilometres, 198.4 miles. The Audi 404. Great Britain's Luke Whitehead from H3 Racing doing what has been an absolutely dominant display and heads in to February with a raft full of confidence ahead of the next 2 rounds of the World Pro Racing Sprint Series, which is being hosted over the next 2 Fridays, the 5th and the 12th of February, to see who will be our Season 2 champion.
But yeah, honestly, I think this is, for him, it's just a big relief because, of course, last time we were here earlier this week, he was quite unhappy overall still, despite finishing on the podium, because he felt, he had gotten impeded by traffic quite a lot. But I think now, even longer race, this time granted not GT Force, but still quite a little bit of traffic, makes it through without mistakes and wins it by a humongous 20 seconds. So honestly, I think he's going to be very, very happy with this result, and rightfully so.
Yeah, we're just going to wait for a couple of the drivers to come into the interview booth with us. Well, firstly, actually, he is here after 62 laps and nearly 200 miles covered. The 404 Audi of Luke Whitehead takes the victory in the all-German 2-hour casual race. Luke, many congratulations. What a great effort. Dominant, taking pole position in qualifying and taking the victory here after 2 hours. That was pretty much a seamless performance.
Yeah, thank you. I'm very, very happy. The race really was perfect from start to finish. Got a good start. Broke the toe for Marcus, with the help from the back marker. But yeah, no, just speaking about Marcus, they were all really good today. I've got to be honest. Special thank you to Andrea Rizzo, who was he was very good getting out of the way. After a couple of issues of last week, I didn't have any of those this week. It was brilliant. Really, really enjoyable, and I'm overly happy with the result.
That's been 2 very good evenings. Obviously, last night at the midpoint of the World Pro Racing Sprint Series, obviously that gives you a run of confidence going into Zolder next Friday. But to cap January off in the best way possible with the victory tonight, that just I bet you're smiling like the Cheshire Cat at the moment, Luke.
Yes, certainly. I mean, after obviously yesterday, as you said, was perfect as well. I think I've grabbed a bit of momentum, and I feel like I'm driving the best I've driven ever on a sim. So, and I said to Dad as I was driving, I actually felt at one, with a sim, which is really strange. Usually, you feel at one with your machine, not your simulator at home. But yeah, really good, really good. Hopefully, I can just carry this momentum into Tuesday's casual race and to the sprint series as well. So yeah, really happy.
Well done, Luke. Congratulations tonight, and all the very best of luck on Tuesday evening.
Thank you very much, Alex.
Okay, next up, we'll now bring in Alex Johnston, our runner-up tonight. Alex, starting P4 alongside Dan Ginchard. It really sort of turned in your favour a little bit later on in the race, but obviously still to get P2, still a good effort.
Yeah, it's more of an endurance race, so you're more playing the long game. That's why I thought, throughout the whole race, let's not push at the start and kill the brakes and the tyres, and let's save some fuel. And, let's wait and see what happens. I knew we struggled in the first stint. Our pressures were just too low, about PSI, and from what it should be. But no, good race in the end. It's a bad luck round to Marcus and Dan Ginchard with the penalties and the drive-throughs. However, I think it's good going for our new team. Me and Marcus have joined Omega Racing team in Italy, so it's a good second outing for us too.
Yeah, well done tonight, Alex, and all the very best of luck for next week.
Thank you.
Nico, I'll hand over to you and for our third place finisher, who was in contention for the victory, Marcus Littlewood.
Marcus, overall, very strong start, but then it faltered a little bit. And of course, that very unfortunate penalty as well for the rather optimistic move. But despite that, still a podium result. How happy are you with your race today?
Yeah, I'm really happy, especially for Alex, because we've joined a new team, Omega E Racing. So yeah, happy for the team. A bit unfortunate because the mistakes creeped in a bit, but I'm still happy nonetheless to get a podium.
Of course, first outing for a new team is always quite tricky, but nevertheless handled very well, of course. And overall, do you think the team is happy with the result?
Yeah, I think they're getting quite vocal in the chat on YouTube, saying "Come on, boys." So yeah, yeah, I'm really happy, and I hope they are as well.
Right then, of course, do you want to say anything to sponsors or team or anything?
Yes, please. So I'd like to say a massive thanks to Omega E Racing team for the setup. Couldn't have done that without them. Also, my sponsors, Red Kite Kitchens, Bailey MK, Raptor Racewear. Yeah, thank you to all of them, and also my parents.
Right, then, thank you very much, and back to you, Alex.
Okay, well that concludes the interview session here on the all-German 2-hour casual race here on World Pro Racing. Once again, we can't help but thank our sponsors and partners, without whom this would simply not be possible, having started back in 2017. Gaming Malta, Melita, who have powered this stream, Thrustmaster, GT Omega Racing, HyperX, where we're all gamers, and AMD. Also, if you are watching on any of the World Pro Racing channels, especially the YouTube channel, why don't you like, share, subscribe, and hit the notification bell. Also, a big thank you to our viewers on Malta's TVM Sport, motorsport.tv, and our good friends at Esports Television. So join my good colleague Nico next Tuesday evening for the Porsche 911 GT3 Cup race at Brands Hatch, and also join Jake and Kieran for the penultimate round of the World Pro Racing Assetto Corsa Competizione Sprint Series taking place at Belgium's Zolder Circuit. So with that being said, have a good end of the weekend, and we'll see you very soon. Good night.
This stream is powered by Melita, using Melita Gigapower Internet. World Pro Racing, where sim racing becomes real.
For only €5 a month, experience every high-definition moment on your TV, tablet, phone or PC. Great teams, great moments, and so much more. TSN from Melita is your ticket to stay in the game. Visit melita.com/sports.
Senna was a god. No one could even dream to follow him.
I'm from a very humble background.
The role of women at that time were really difficult.
This is so dangerous. You are risking not only your life, but also my life.
Wish your Wi-Fi network would just work in any room? Our new Stellar Wi-Fi is AI assisted to give you the smoothest, fastest possible Wi-Fi throughout your home. Stellar Wi-Fi, assisted by AI, exclusive to Melita. Find out more in-store or online.
World Pro Racing, where sim racing becomes real.